This episode is brought to you by InVeedHemp.com. InVeed has been my choice for my CBD needs for almost a year now, and I can't begin to tell you how it has improved my life. They come in 3 formulas: Clarity, Relief, and Relax. I take a Clarity drop in the morning with my coffee to get me focused, then a drop of Relief for my aches and pains and inflammation after a run or a workout. Then I do a drop of the Relax before I go to bed to help me sleep. I've gotten some of the best sleep that I've had in years, and now with my Whoop band, my recovery band, I can prove it. And now they've come out with a new mixture called Immunity, which we all need to stave off COVID-19. The Immunity Boost is a mixture of turmeric, grapefruit extract, elderberry, licorice root, and vitamin C, which we all could use a little bit more, I'm sure. I just got my first shipment in and took my first drop this morning. They come in drops, which is my choice, a tincture, roll-ons for those aches and pains, and then also gummies, which I think a lot of people out there use the gummies. So you can get it however you choose. So go place your order today. Go to InVeedHemp.com and use the code GURU20 for a 20% discount for life. CBD is a great supplement to keep you healthy and safe during these crazy times. So let's get to this week's episode. This episode is brought to you by HackMotion. HackMotion is a cutting-edge wrist sensor for teaching wrist motion for a compressed tour-like shot. I spent some time with these guys last year at the show, and I've become part of the company, and I'm all in. So I presented for them at the PGA show last year, which was a great opportunity, and use it pretty much on a daily basis. And it's used by so many top coaches now. My friend Scott Cowks, I know Brian Manzella, and James Lights. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are out there using this, and I'm happy to inform you that there is a new version coming out with trail wrist data, because it was just lead wrist before. So trail wrist data, I am actually testing that right now, and there'll be a lot of information coming out here in the near future. I know David Orr's doing some stuff, and Phil Kenyon's doing some stuff with putting, and I will be testing that as well. So I will be presenting at the PGA show virtual this year for them for a second time. So I'm excited about that. So go check it out, hackmotion.com. I think it's an awesome training aid, and I appreciate their support of the show.
It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
You know how to cut to the core of me, Baxter. You're so wise. You're like a miniature Buddha covered in hair.
I want to become a guru so girls will like me. Then I will like myself.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules. Rule number 1. No touching of the hair or face.
Of course.
And that's it! Now let's do this!
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Golf Guru Show. I am Jason Sutton, and I am the Guru, where it is my mission to interview the top golf instruction minds in the business, or high performers in all fields of study, break them down, get them to share all their stories, book ideas, best practices, and information that has made them successful, and then share it with all of you so we can grow together as coaches and as human beings. Thank you so much for all your support of the podcast, and make sure you download this episode and hit the purple subscribe button so you don't miss any future shows that will be coming your way. My guest on this episode is none other than the number one instructor in the world, Mr. Butch Harmon. Mr. Harmon needs no introduction, as he has been ranked the number one instructor by Golf Digest and Golf Magazine for many years, and has worked with so many great players over the years, including 4 number one players in the world: Tiger Woods, Dustin Johnson, Greg Norman, and Adam Scott, as well as a host of others that include Rickie Fowler, Phil Mickelson, Brooks Koepka, Gary Woodland, and Danielle Kang, and there's a whole list of LPGA players as well. And also legends like Fred Couples, my favorite player growing up, Seve Ballesteros, and Jose Maria Olazabal, as we get into a little bit of all of these players and what he's working on with them and his experiences with them We spent over 2 hours talking golf and coaching, which was amazing. And I didn't even get to half of my prepared questions. So he promised me a part 2, which you don't want to miss. We got into so many different topics, and he is such a great storyteller. So he has many interesting stories that I just want to say that having one of my teaching idols on the show and getting to spend some time with him has made what has been a crazy year and challenging year for all of us complete, and my heart is full. This was such an amazing conversation with one of the greatest coaches that has ever lived. So I bring you my friend, the brilliant and entertaining Mr. Butch Harmon. Enjoy. Well, Mr. Harmon, welcome to the show, man. Thank you so much for taking the time. I'm super excited to catch up with you, and this is going to be a lot of fun.
My pleasure, Jason. It's that time of year where we can spread a little joy and talk about some golf. What's better than that? Well, drink a little wine too. But.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know it's a little bit earlier out there in Vegas, but we will we'll talk about wine as it goes along here.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
There you go. That's awesome. So it looks like I was kind of digging into your Instagram. It looks like you've been doing some reading over COVID. What is?
Oh my gosh! I have read more books. I have pretty much since March not done anything. The only time I even go to my office is if there's a couple tour players in town or the ones that live here that I'm doing some teaching. I was over there this morning with Maverick McNealy. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I don't really leave the house. I live on a golf course, and we all have our own carts, so we'll go out and play golf, but everybody's in their own carts, which is kind of nice. So I think we may want to keep doing this. The green superintendent wouldn't like it, but it's 4 carts in a foursome is pretty good. And, when you live on a course, all our carts go 25 miles an hour, so you don't ever have a bad lie, so it's pretty good.
I love it. Yeah, I know golf rounds are up all over the country. I just got back from the PGA Magazine Teacher of the Year conference, and I was talking to our mutual friend Kevin Kirk, and he said to tell you hello and how much you've influenced his career. Yes, he is. So
I've known Kevin a long time, maybe 35 years or 40 years almost. Yeah, a long time. He's a great instructor.
Absolutely. So I wanted to start with your dad, because we want to get to your history and your upbringing, because I think it's important to kind of paint the picture of the person and the coach that you are. For those young coaches out there that don't know who your dad is, or if you've been under a rock and don't study golf history, just give them a brief outline of like who he was and then what he meant to you. And then I've got a few quotes and some life lessons that I want to kind of bring up, and I want you to comment on them. It'll be fun.
Sure. My dad, Claude Harmon, won the Masters in 1948, really the last club professional to ever win a major championship. Was not only one of the greatest teachers of all time in the Teacher Hall of Fame, obviously, but was a great player. And everybody says, well, your father had a pretty good record in major championships. I said, yeah, he had. He was a semifinalist 2 or 3 times in the PGA, quarterfinalist 3 or 4 times. Those are all top 5, top 10 finishes. Should have won the U.S. Open in '59 at Winged Foot when Casper won. He lost by 2 shots, and Casper broke the putting record for the fewest putts that week, or Dad would have probably pulled that one off if he'd have putted any better. But he was a great player. But people say, your father was such a good player because he won the Masters by 5 shots when he won. He was the only second player ever to break 280 at that time. And I said, there wasn't that much money in golf. And my dad was the pro at Winged Foot Golf Club in the summer and Seminole in the winter. He had the 2 best jobs in the country. He was making more money in his pro shop than the lead money winner was making. And we grew up, there's 6 kids in our family. So, it was playing the tour was not a necessity for Dad. I mean, he would play in major championships all the time, but that was about it. But, he gets the credit of winning the Masters, but he's truly, I think, one of the greatest instructors of all time. He was so far ahead of his time and using film, using teaching aids, his ability to diagnose instantly on what was wrong with you. He had, I think, the greatest eye in golf. My dad, Claude Harmon, and the great John Jacobs from Europe are the 2 biggest mentors I have in my life about teaching. And both of them were so simple in the way they did things. It was all path and club face angle. John Jacobs' book, Practical Golf, which he wrote in '75, I still think is the best teaching instructional manual that you could have because it's so simple. And, growing up in our family, everybody thinks that because my dad was such a great player and so well-renowned in teaching, that he pushed us all to play golf, myself and my three younger brothers, Craig, Dick, and Bill, who were all golf professionals. And it wasn't the case at all. Jason, I mean, if we wanted to play, he was there for us. If we didn't want to play for me, I was a pretty good athlete in high school, so I played a lot of other sports and just played golf kind of in the summertime.
Football player, right?
I did. Yeah, well, I thought I was. And then I played 1 year at junior college football, and at 5'8", 165, I got the shit kicked out of me. I figured I better go to golf. I was a pretty good halfback in New York. I was an all-county at New Rochelle High School, and I was pretty fast. I could run a 9, 10 flat 100-yard dash in those days, which is pretty quick way back in 1960. And I've always been crazy and like to hit people, and football was legal to hit people, so it was right up my alley. I said, shit, this is, I can go out here and knock the crap out of somebody, and it's a good thing. I said, I like this. But, it's golf really, I've been through a lot of periods of golf in my life. Just because we come from a family of golf didn't mean we were all going to go into it. I think we admired our father so much, Jason, in how he was and how he conducted himself and how successful he was, both at playing and teaching and as a club pro, that we admired him so much that we all wanted to be like him. And I'm the oldest, Billy's the youngest, and we were kind of the rebels in the family. And Dick and Craig, the two middle ones, were the ass kissers in the family. And they're the two that really turned out really good. But Billy and I, we kind of made our own way in a different way. Craig has been the professional of the year in the PGA. He's won every award in the PGA you can win. He always tells me, because I'm not a member of the PGA, never have been a pro 55 years, but I've never been a PGA member. He says, see, you've got all those awards, but I got something you could never get. You could never be the pro of the year in the PGA. I said,
That's
you're
right.
exactly right. I could not. I said, but would you like to compare wallets? He goes, no, you win.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, we grew up in a golfing family, Jason, and you know how that goes. You're around golf your whole life. Dad was a pro Winged Foot. We belonged to a club when we were younger, not far from Winged Foot, called Waikiki Country Club, where we would go play. And it just was I think at the time, you don't realize what your life is. I mean, for us, Ben Hogan was always over the house. Jackie
Amazing.
Burke, all these great champions, Jay Avery, all these guys were always at that. I played with Mr. Hogan, I think, the first time when I was about 16. And it sounds arrogant to say it, but it wasn't for us at the time because we just took that for granted. That's just the way it was. Whenever the tour was in the metropolitan area in New York, Mr. Hogan would always be there for dinner, and we'd be in the backyard swinging as kids. And that's just how we grew up. And because my mother had 10 pregnancies, she seemed like she was always pregnant. So when my dad would go play in these majors, when I started, I was there when he won. I was barely 6 years old or so. I don't even remember it. But once I got to be about 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I would go to every major with my dad. Mm-hmm. And in those days, there was no ropes. So you literally would walk down the fairway with the players. My dad would be playing Ben Hogan or something. I'm just standing right there in the middle of the fairway watching them hit balls and practice and stuff. And I think it took me till I was well into my 40s to really realize how good we had it as kids. Mm-hmm. And every time the four of us, unfortunately, Dickie's not with us anymore, but when the four of us were alive and we'd get together, that's all we talk about. Can you believe what we got to see when we were younger? We never paid any attention to it, and we never really thought it was any big deal. When we were growing up in Winged Foot, Tommy Armour, Craig Wood were members at Winged Foot. We all played, myself and my younger brothers, we played golf with them all the time in the summertime. And once again, it sounds like I'm trying to be arrogant, but I'm not. It was just the way it was, and we didn't think anything of it. I grew up caddying, so that's how I learned how to play. I started caddying when I was about 12 or 13, and I'd caddy for my dad every day in the summer when he's playing with all these great players and stuff. And, then I'd see Ben Hogan or somebody hit a shot on say, for example, the 8th hole on the West Course with the dogleg from left to right. In those days, it was a drive and a fairway wood, and Bryson DeChambeau made it look simple with drive and 9 irons. But I remember I think I was about 15, and I saw Mr. Hogan hit a shot out of the right rough, and he took his forward and opened it up, and he hit the most beautiful high cut out of there. And I can remember walking down the fairway. I said, "How'd you do that?" He said, "Well, you got to open it up, take it outside, hit down." So they would finish playing, and either Dad would go in and have a few drinks. I'd get my clubs, and I went out to that spot. I said, I saw Ben Hogan hit this shot. I got to try this. How do you do that? And I'm flubbing him out of the rough, doing all this stuff, but I'm trying it. And I kind of learned that way. I learned watching the best players in the world. Obviously, watching my father teach was a plus. But to get the ability and the opportunity to have watched all the best players play at that time, it was just kind of getting your master's degree in golf, and you didn't even know it, because that was just our life. That was just how we lived. And I know it sounds arrogant, but it isn't. And we were pretty naive, to be honest with you, thinking that, wow, this is a big deal. We never looked at it that way, just the way it was.
No, I get it. Because as a father, my son is a good player, plays Division I golf now. And as he was coming up, your son's been here at my house and stayed. I've had Cameron McCormick. I've had all these great coaches come through. I'm not sure he appreciates it, the time he's been able to spend with all these top teachers.
He will someday. It'll hit him someday. It took my brothers and I a long time to actually realize. And we knew who these guys were, but they were just friends of the family and friends of my dad. Yeah. So we became friendly with them. And as a kid, you get to, when your father's who he is, you get to be around the best players. I'll tell you one of the funny stories about me. Arnold Palmer was my idol. I loved Arnold Palmer. I wanted to be Arnold Palmer. I tried to dress like him, hitch my pants up like he did. And when I think I was, it goes back. When did we move to Palm Springs? 1958 or 59. They were playing. It was before it was the Hope. It's called the Palm Springs Invitational or something like that. It was played at my dad's club at Thunderbird, where he was the pro at. And I was, I think I was a sophomore in high school or something. And Arnold was playing it, and he wasn't in the final group. He was in the group, just the penultimate group, just before it. And Caddy Master says, "Hey, Butch, who do you want to carry the sign for?" I said, "Arnold Palmer, man. I want to be in Arnold Palmer's group, so I'm carrying the sign." Now I knew Arnold because he and my dad were friends and stuff, so we were having this conversation. He shot like 62 or 3 and won the tournament, and he'd made all these birdies in his. This is show how naive you are when you're about 15 or so. He birdies the 15th hole to go to so many under par. And in those days, on the score, on a sign, they didn't give you a 2 and a 1 for 21 under. It just said 20, 21, 20. Well, I had run out of numbers. I didn't have any more numbers to put how many under par it was for the tournament. And the 16th hole was a beautiful par 3. Pin was in the back left, about 190 yards or something. He hit the most beautiful 4-iron, big old high draw 4-iron, back to about 6-7 feet. And I was walking off the tee, to the right side carrying the sign. He goes, "How about that shot, Butchie boy?" I said, "Mr. Palmer, that was awesome." But I said, "I don't have any more numbers to put up on the board." He goes, "I'm going to run you out of numbers," he said. So he misses the putt. So now I'm thinking it's my fault because I told him I didn't have any more numbers to put on the board. So the 17th hole, I'm walking so far behind him, I'm not even getting up where the people are. I'm way back. So then we get to 18th tee, and he drives off 18. I'm walking. He says, "Come on, you didn't make me miss that putt. Walk down this fairway with me."
He knew you thought you felt guilty.
Oh yeah, and my rookie year on the tour in '69, we would see each other in the locker room or on the practice tee. We were still talking about that. He was still needling me about that.
That's awesome.
But things like that you got to do, and it's what makes our game so great, to be honest with you. And Here I am, 77 years old, and have had a great career and been very successful myself, thanks to all the upbringing that I had from my family. And it's fun to look back on those times when you were younger and the stuff that happened, and some of the crazy stuff I'm not going to talk about that we did.
Oh, come on! I got to get some more wine in you.
there's some wild stuff we pulled off, but I have no complaints. I'm a very lucky person. I've got a great family. I've had a great career. I grew up in a great family, and it's all about golf. If they ever made golf illegal, I don't know what I'd do. This is all. I'd probably sell used cars. I got so much bullshit, but it's all we've ever done in our family. It's all we, and we love it. It's more than a job and a life to us. It's a passion, and it's. I love what I do. I love teaching. I love being around it. I love watching good players play. I just marvel at the players today, the shots they can hit under the extreme pressure that they play under. And there's so many good ones. And look at our game. Look at these young guys.
Incredible.
How good they are.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned with how far everybody hits the ball these days because of equipment. But, that's just part of it. And somebody's going to come along and start hitting at 400 here pretty soon, the way they're going. Can you imagine that?
If Bryson keeps doing what he's doing, he's right there.
Yeah, I don't know how long his body can hold up.
Yeah, that's the only thing. If injury is or over curiosity, I think, is the only thing that can stop him.
The spine is not built to handle the ferociousness he swings at. I will say this: he made a believer out of me at Winged Foot. I never thought he could do what he did at Winged Foot.
Yeah, I heard a podcast you were on just before then, and you're like, "There's no way that he's going to do that," and that's pretty crazy.
Worked on that course, but he putted his tail off, which you have to do to win.
Yeah, short game was amazing. And
what we found out was he was so strong he could get the ball out of the rough.
Right, that definitely played a part.
Having said that, he still was the only person shot on the par, and so but. Then we saw him go to Augusta, which is a totally different animal, and I knew he wasn't going to play well there with that, because there's more to Augusta National than just driving it out there 350. I mean, the greens alone will drive you crazy, and he has never putted well at Augusta, so it didn't surprise me that he didn't contend there. But you got to take your hat off to him. He figured out what works for him. Now, having said that, Jace, he's going to ruin about 100 players.
Yeah, I think you're right.
There's a lot of college kids and a lot of young kids that are bulking up, trying to swing as hard as they can. And golf is still a game of getting from point A to point B in the fewest amount of strokes. And he figured out what works for him. I'm not sure it works for other people, but we're going to find out, because everybody's trying to hit it a little harder. They're trying to get their ball speed up in the 180s. My car won't even go 180, and I got a hot car. Their damn balls are going that fast.
Oh my gosh,
it's impressive, really, to be honest with you.
It is. So let's kind of continue on that before we get. I was going to ask you about your dad's pearls that I want to kind of get to and get your comments on, but take us through just your early days in your career. You've mentioned, and I think you got your first golf lesson from Mr. Burke, right? Was that?
Burke, I was, I think, 6 or 7 years old. And for those of you who have been to Winged Foot, it's really funny. And Jackie, unfortunately, I didn't get to go to the Ladies Open in Champions, or I would have this year, because I have a great tie at Champions. And one of my players, Danielle Kang, was playing it, and I would have gone to. But he's 97 years old, and he is the biggest character on the planet.
Yeah.
And so he used to tease me as I got older. He said, damn, your father made me give a lesson to a 6, 7, 8-year-old, however the hell old you were. He says, all you had was one club, a 7 wood, you couldn't get it airborne. And I'm like, damn, Claude, why are you picking on me to do it? Jackie was the low man on the assistant on the totem pole. So he took me over to the rough, to the left of the 10th tee on the West Course, which is an elevated tee hitting to the par 3. And I said, well, why did you take me over there and not to the range? He says, because I knew you could get it airborne off that elevated tee. He said, even if you topped it, it would go in the air. And I can tell you, Jackie, he was something. I don't think I've ever met anybody that's had as quick a wit as him. And he, at 97, he's still pretty sharp.
I bet.
So still goes and hits balls and likes to hit balls. I mean, it's pretty amazing, really. Yeah.
So
that's where I got my first lesson.
Yeah, I was gonna say, take us through your junior golf career, and then how that led you to college, and then when you turned pro. Just kind of give us a little lineage to really how you started teaching.
Junior golf career, I think I won the Metropolitan Juniors in '60, I think it was, and my brother Billy also won that too, which was pretty cool. And the interesting thing about the final match, I beat Mike Ternessa's son. Mike Ternessa Jr. was playing Claude Harmon Jr. in the finals, so it was a big thing in the Met area in New York. We were playing, of course, out on the Iowa, on Long Island, in Inwood Country Club, which was a good old course. And it was kind of a big thing. Here's 2 major championship sons playing each other in the finals, and it was an 18-hole finals, and unfortunately, Mike didn't play very good, and I beat him 8-7.
Wow.
So it's a good day for me, not a good day for
That's a drumming.
But it was a cool thing in the metropolitan New York area, when you had two sons of guys that had won major championships and stuff. That was pretty cool. I went to the University of Houston for about a month. That was about it.
I was gonna say it was hard to find where you went to college, and I didn't realize you went to Houston.
I went to U of H for about a month, and it was interesting. I hated Texas. Well, I hated school. I was never a good student. I was, if I hadn't been a decent athlete in other sports in high school, I probably wouldn't have got out because I've got every letter you can have as far as attention span goes. So I didn't stay there very long. I got out, kind of left home. Nobody knew where I was. Kind of got a little incognito. Went out to California and hung out and did crazy stuff. My dad finally found me. Had the sheriff come find me. And I was about 18 years old then, I guess. And then I actually played the tour as an amateur when I was 19 for I think 7 or 8 weeks. Monday qualified and traveled and played. And I played in. I don't know, made 4 or 5 of them or something, and just to try and see if I was any good, which I didn't feel like I was very good at the time. And so that's when I joined the Army. I just said, I probably need to get my butt kicked a little and grow up a little because everything I'm doing is not very good at the moment in my life. And so I joined the Army and spent 3 years in the Army. Unfortunately, I ended up in Vietnam in 1966, which anyone who's been there will tell you wasn't a very good thing. And but that was how radical I was as a kid. I mean, people say, well, you could have gone in special services and just worked at a golf course. I said, no, I needed to join airborne infantry just to see if when it came time to jump out of the airplane, I'd jump or the jump master would kick me out. I just wanted to find that out. Then I hurt my knee and never got to jump. So
oh, no.
Didn't find that out. But, the military was good for me. I needed that. I needed a little structure in my life. I actually think, and this is interesting, Jason, I don't know how many people I've told this to. I actually think if I hadn't gone to Vietnam, I might have stayed in the Army. Because I liked being part of a team. I like the whole discipline of it. I'm a real spit and polish kind of guy anyway with the way I dress and stuff. So that part was easy. I was a good athlete, so I was in great shape. I was gung-ho. And I actually, when I did my basic training at Fort Ord and then I did my advanced infantry training at Fort Polk, Louisiana, and that is Leesville, Louisiana. I'm sorry for all you coonasses in Louisiana. That's a shit town. Leesville, Louisiana is not a good town. And then I got sent to Alaska.
Oh, wow.
Of all places. So I am a former Alaska State amateur champion.
I read that, or I heard that somewhere. One of the majors, right?
Yeah. I used to tease Tiger Woods when I worked with him when he was younger and on the tour. I said, you got all these things you won. I said, but I've got one title you could never win. He said, what do you mean? I said, I'm Alaska State amateur champion. He goes, well, who gives a shit about that? I said, well, you're not.
Yeah.
I said, I am. And he said, well, I could win. I said, no, you can't. You're a pro. You can't play in it. You got no chance. So he goes, well, you never won the Masters. I said, well, my name's on the trophy. They just left the junior off.
That's great.
And it was really funny because I was in Alaska for 22, 23 months. I was there during the earthquake in 64, one of the worst earthquakes in the world, which was the scariest thing I think I've ever been through. That was even worse than the war. But we were trained to fight in Arctic conditions out of mechanized vehicles. I was on a mortar crew, and we could fire the mortars out of the vehicles and stuff. And all of a sudden, the 25th Infantry Division out of Honolulu, Tropic Lightning, was the first full division to go to Vietnam in 66. And they were 1 battalion short of combat strength, so they came and got us out of Alaska to go to the jungles.
Oh my
we
gosh.
went to Hawaii for 3 weeks for a quick advance jungle training school, and then put on a troop ship and went to anyone who's old like me that's ever been on a troop ship. It's the most disgusting thing you've ever seen. It was so hot below deck in these things. And I made a mistake when we left. We took a troop ship from Alaska to Hawaii, and it was in the wintertime, and we left. We hit a damn iceberg the first night out to sea, and so nobody could go up on deck, and the seas are rough, and I made the mistake of grabbing the bottom bunk, and there was 3 above me, and everybody's getting sick and throwing up. It's just disgusting because the seas were so rough. So I said, "The hell with this." When we're on our way to Vietnam, I'm taking the top bunk, man. I know, but it's hotter than hell down there. And this is a funny story. And I'm in the top bunk, and I swear to God, the ceiling above me was like just 6, 7, 8 inches from my head because the bunk is the top one.
Gosh.
And the first night out to sea, I roll. All you got on is your skivvies, and I roll over in the middle of the night, and I caught my nuts right between my legs, and I did something to my right ball sack. I couldn't hardly get out of my bunk and put my clothes on. I said, "What has happened to me?" So I go to the ship's hospital, and what had happened, in your scrotum sac, you have a bunch of blood vessels, and I had pinched one, and the blood couldn't flow through there. Well, this was the greatest thing that could have ever happened to me, because first of all, I could hardly walk. But then I had to spend 6 of the 7 days that it took to get from Hawaii to Vietnam in the hospital in air conditioning.
Oh,
and now I've got my poor sack up on some tongue depressors just elevated in the air, and I'm laying in the air conditioning all day, all night. And everybody in my squad would come up to visit me. "Hey, Harmon, you all right?" And they say, "Hey, can we hide underneath your hospital bed tonight and stay in this air conditioner?" I said, "You can try." Well, they ran them out every time.
That's amazing.
That was a very strange scenario on that deal. And then obviously Vietnam is Vietnam. It's not I don't really talk much about it. You do and see things that you never thought you could do or would want to do, and it was a terrible thing. And I think my son works in D.C. now in the State Department. We go visit him. I go to the Vietnam Memorial Wall every time I'm there, and it's devastating when you look at the 55,000, 56,000 names on there, and you go and touch the ones that you knew, and I was proud that I was asked to go, and I went, and then years later you're like, what the hell are we doing there? It's no different than Iraq and Afghanistan. Right. When I went to Iraq in 2007 with Faraday and Tom Lehman and Tom Watson, we did I think 8 or 9 bases in 7 days over Thanksgiving, and it was a joy to be around our soldiers. I know I'm getting a little ahead of you, but
this is great.
It's just our military is really young. It's like 18 to 25. And these kids are so well trained, and the weaponry is so much more sophisticated than we had back in the 60s when I was in the infantry. And this is these kids' jobs. They sign up for this. There's no draft. Nobody made these kids do this. And it was fascinating that we were pretty much out in all the Anbar province where they've had a lot of problems with all these Marine bases. And these kids were phenomenal. None of them complained about being there. All they'd say, "Look, when you go home, just tell DC to let us do our job. We can get this done." And it's why when some of them would get injured and stuff, they always want to go back. Because one of the reasons I started my foundation, Harmon Heroes, for disabled veterans from the war, that golf is part of their life, was to get them back into golf so when they go get back in their hometowns, they can become part of society. Because you're looking at young people that lost an arm or a leg or had head trauma or something, and they don't have any job skills. They were trained to fight in the military. That's their job, and they love it. And all of a sudden that's taken away from them. And, the saddest statistics that they don't want to talk about is we've had more Iraqi and Afghanistan veterans commit suicide than have died in the war. And that's terrible. I mean, it just shows you that the government could do so much more. So in a small way, I tried to use golf to help. And I got involved with Troops First Foundation. Faraday's involved with them. And I said, why don't we start bringing 10, 12 guys out every year to Vegas? Well, I'll get my buddies that have private jets and give us the jets to fly them out. And so we'd bring out 10 or 12 of them for 3 days, golf school, put them up in the hotels, and I'd give them you weren't allowed to pay them any money, but I'd shake hands with each one of them, and they had a $500 chip in their hand. I said, no, this is $500 for you. You go cash it. You can gamble, you can drink, you can do it on women. I don't care what you do with it. This is yours. Go have some fun. And then
that's amazing.
Have dinners for them. But I had one Medal of Honor winner who was just phenomenal. We had 2 guys once that had lost both legs. One guy lost it in his right leg was up by his just below his hip, and his left leg was just below his knee. every time they'd swing when we were practicing when they'd almost fall down, or they would fall down.
Mm-hmm.
And they're proud. They don't want you to help them up and stuff. And so we had done a couple of days of training and having fun with them. And this Sergeant Ramirez, he gets up on our first tee, and I had to show him how to take a really wide stance. He's very strong upper body, so he was only going to swing with his upper body. Mm-hmm. And he hit this drive about 230, right down the middle of the fairway, up in the air, and I had tears in my eyes. And I was a sergeant when I was in the Army, so they called me Sergeant. I went up and I hugged him. I said, "That's the greatest shot I've ever seen." He goes, "Sarge, I didn't fall over. I didn't fall over. This is the coolest thing I've ever done in my life." And so I started trying to use golf to just help people. And we would buy houses for them and do stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But golf became a little bit of a tool to try and help these guys, because they come home and they have no skill. There's nothing they can do. They don't know how to do anything. Most of them never went to college. They went right out of high school, or they came from underprivileged areas and stuff. And they're great kids. And that's why they want to go back, because they want to be part of that unit and part of that team. And when they leave, they don't have that. And then, unfortunately, a lot of them don't have the best marriages in the world. And we had a bad situation we found once that you would buy houses for them, and then the wives would divorce them and take the houses. So we had to figure out a way legally, how can we get around this to make sure the guy can keep the house. And it's sad, really. And you look at all of our veterans, and I have all the respect in the world for what these kids do. And what the hell are we doing in Iraq and Afghanistan anyway? I'll tell you honest with you, we don't need to be there. Those people don't give a shit about us. And as soon as we leave, it goes right back to the way it was. So we're wasting hundreds of billions of dollars in people's lives for, I'm not sure we're helping anybody, but that's another story.
They have to appreciate that you lived it, right? I mean, that connection, I'm sure, is pretty strong.
So 66, I came out, went to work for my dad as an assistant pro. Late 60s, I got out in August, so late 66, 67, 68. Went to Q school in 68. My rookie year on the tour was 69. I always say I did a great thing for the tour. In 71, I left it because I wasn't very good.
How did you get back into playing for him that quickly?
Just we lived in Palm Springs. It was summertime. I got out, I think August 10th was when I got discharged. And, courses, nothing was open down there. Course was open, you could go play if you lived there, but nobody lived there. And so my brother Billy was young then, and he was living there. And we just go play golf every day. Just go play golf. And I kind of got back into it and realized that I liked it and did that. And I played the tour for 3 years, never really did very much. Played in a couple U.S. Opens, only made the cut in one in 1970. And so I decided that I was going to play until my two youngest kids were of school age. And if it wasn't doing any good, I would go into the club business. And that's pretty much what I did. 71. And interesting story. You've probably read about my time in Morocco with the King of Morocco.
Yes. Talk about that.
I had been, in 69, I'd got invited to play over in a Moroccan Open. Julius Boros and I. Julius was still playing the tour then. Then I went over and played pretty well. I finished second. The guy from France, Jean Gariel, won it. We were asked to stay over and play with the King, which we did. And I'll tell you some funny stories about that in a minute. And they were building this beautiful 45-hole complex Royal Golf Dar es Salaam in Rabat, the capital, where the European Tour plays a tournament there. Mm-hmm. They said, when they took me out to see the construction, and Jones was building it, Robert Jones Sr., and they said, hey, when it's done, we'd love to have you come be our first golf professional. Of course, you said, oh, sure, I'd love to. Never thought anything of it. Well, 1971, I was, realizing that I wasn't as good as I thought I'd be, and I got a call, and they said, okay, we're ready for you to come to Morocco. So I can remember saying to my wife at the time, not my wife now, but my wife at the time, I said, okay, how's your French? And she could speak French and Spanish. As good as why? I said, we're moving to North Africa. My kids were little, and we packed up and moved over there, and I ended up spending maybe 4 or 5 years there full time, and then the other 5 years in the winter time, because I worked in Iowa. I had a club job, and I'd go over in the winter, and I was the King's personal golf pro and travel all over the world with him and train with his Secret Service. And it was a difficult. I went through a few coup attempts, which made me realize, you can make a lot of money, but you got to be alive to spend it.
Yeah, because is there a time when your life was in danger, right?
Oh yeah, there was a few times. Oh yeah, there was a few times of that. But playing, people always said to me, and King Hassan II, he's dead now. His son Mohammed VI is the monarch now, and he's doing a great job there. Was a wonderful man. I learned so much from him. You know, I was young then. I was just in my 30s, and here I am, the only American to work for him. And this is a real king. This isn't the Queen of England. This is a real king. If he says your head comes off, there's no trial. They're cutting your freaking head off. And I should have learned the first time that I was there the way things were. It's a funny story. His Majesty wasn't a very good player in those days. He was a beginner, and you say, well, how did you get that job? So, well, my dad had gone over the year before and had helped get him into golf and start teaching him. And the Arab world, you know, if you're the oldest son, you're the heir to everything. Well, I was the oldest son, and I was the golfer. So that's I got invited to play in this tournament. Well, we got invited to stay over a day or so and play golf with the king. And so Julius Boros and I are playing with him. He's not very good. He's hitting balls, and I'm like, ooh, this guy's a ranked beginner. And, you know, and first hole is these guys would drive it with a driving iron today. It was about 305 yards downhill, and you know, if I could drive right in front of the green, Boros could drive, and the king made like 6 on the hole or something. And next hole, pretty low. This was at a place called Ski Rat, which was a summer palace between Casablanca and Rabat that he had. And he had built an 18-hole golf course within the palace grounds. So we played a second hole, par 3 up the hill, 150 yards, not much of a hole. And King made a 5, double bogey, wasn't very good. Next hole, a par 5. Well, par 5s in those days, 500 or 510 would have been fairly long.
Yeah.
You know, this was only like 485 or something.
Persimmon woods.
And persimmon and softballs.
Yeah.
And he actually hit 3 really good shots and got in a bunker short of the green, and he couldn't get out. He just slashing away. And you know, Julius Boros, one of the greatest bunker players of all time. I said, Jay, you got to go help him. He goes, well, why don't you help him? I said, no, man, you're a former U.S. Open champ. Jump in there. He gets in there and he tries to help him, and King never got out. But we didn't think anything of it. Just went on to the next hole, and it was just playing 9 holes. And His Majesty leaves, and he thanks us for being there, and we bow and thank him. And he goes off into the palace and with all his aides and stuff. And Boros and I are there, and Julius, driver, comes up in his Mercedes, and mine comes up, and I'm about to get in the car. This guy comes running. I goes, Mr. Harmon, His Majesty would like to know if you could spend a few days and stay over and play golf with him and help him out with his game. And I, being so naive, you know, I said, well, yeah, if someone could change my ticket on Royal Air Morocco. Well, he owns the whole country. Of course, he owns the damn airline. They can do whatever they want, but I didn't realize it. No, I think we can take care of that. I said, okay, so would you like me to tell Mr. Boros? He goes, no, Mr. Boros has to go do something in Europe. It's okay, whatever. Come out the next day. King hits the ball. I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to let him get the ball airborne. So he hits a few balls. We played the first hole. He actually hit a good drive off the first hole. He hit about, 180 yards up in the air down the middle, which was good for him. Got it up the green. He actually made a 6 on the first hole. Little par 3 made a 4, which I'm like, damn, I never thought the guy could make a bogey. And then we get to this par 5 I was just telling you about, and he's on the green in 4, and he's got like a 15-footer for a birdie, and I've knocked it on the front edge until it chipped up to about a foot. So I was just leaning on my putter looking over there, and I went, wasn't there a bunker there yesterday? This bunker is gone. It is not there. And it is not just what was gone. It is filled in, it's resodded, it's been mowed.
It's like Augusta.
And I'm literally looking at this, and the king sees me, and he goes like this, very bad lesson. I didn't want any memories of it. I'm like, son of a bitch.
That's power right there.
I better watch what I say about this guy. And I spent a few more days there with him, and then 71 came, and we moved over there and lived there and traveled with him, and it was a wonderful experience, to be honest with you. Claude can tell you about it. He was really little then.
Yeah,
he was a little guy in those days, and Morocco is a beautiful country. I will tell you, any of you people listening to this, when we come out of this terrible COVID-19 that we're in, it's a great European golf destination. They've built so many. There was hardly any golf courses when I lived there. There's so many now. Beautiful courses on the ocean at the various resorts, and it's a great destination for Europeans. Probably Dubai and Morocco are the 2 places that everybody goes for golf experiences. So if you're ever in that part of the world, it's a great country. It's safe. They don't discriminate against anybody. There's a tremendous amount of Moroccan Jews. You wouldn't believe it, in an Arab country that live there, that have owned businesses, have never been discriminated against. Even during the two wars, they were never discriminated against. King Hassan was a wonderful guy. He was a smart guy. He was very educated. It was too bad that they didn't have any oil, because if they did, he would have been one of the greatest Arab leaders. They're the biggest exporters of phosphate, but there's nobody in phosphate like oil. But he was a very smart man, very close to the Americans, had very close ties with the Americans and stuff. And I was the only American that worked for him. So the attachés that were attachés, but they were really CIA people. They were always, oh, so what'd you do today? And I wouldn't say anything. I just said, I just play golf. Look, I'm a golf pro, guys. I don't understand politics. To this day, I don't like politics. I'm an independent. That's why I don't ever get literature from Democrats or Republicans.
I'm with you.
And so they always say, so who was there today? Who did you see? It's guys. And the king loved that because I wouldn't tell him anything.
Yeah,
because his head of his Secret Service, of his intelligence agency, and and our CIA, they had a good working relationship, so they knew exactly that they were talking to me, and he knew. And he said to me one time, he said, "I have to say that I admire you. You've been a very loyal person to me." I said, "Your Majesty, you've been so good to our family. I would never do anything that would embarrass you." And he goes, "Well, I understand that you irritate your CIA sometimes." I said, "Well, that's a possibility." Kind of a rebel in me.
I love it. That's so cool.
That's kind of what it was. And then, you go on, and I had a down period in my life in the early 80s. I was divorced. I lost my job. I was drinking too much, gambling too much, and got where I hated golf. Didn't know what I was going to do. And my brother Dick saved my life, to be honest with you. If it wasn't for Dickie, I would not be who I am today. I might not even be alive. And he said, get your head, I'm the oldest and he's the third. And he said, get your head out of your ass, drive your car down here to Houston. You can live with me. I'll find you a job. And Dave Marr and Jay Revere had a golf course construction company then, designing and building golf courses, and they gave me a job. And I went to work for them, didn't have a clue how golf courses were built. One of the coolest things I've ever done. It's given me a tremendous understanding of how you build a golf course and the way you do what you do. But I can remember sitting in this room, and David was like my big brother. Dave Marr was, when he went to work for my dad, I think he was only 19 or 20. They lied about how old he was. He was Jackie Burke's cousin.
Oh, wow.
And he was like the big brother I never had. I used to look up to him because I wasn't very old in those days. And so we played a lot of golf together, and then we played the tour together. And so I can be sitting in this office, and Dave goes in and talks to Jay, and he says, look, I was talking to Dickie, and Butch needs a job. He said he's in bad shape. He's lost his way, and I think if we give him a job and kick his ass and just work him to death, I think we can get him out of this. And Jay says, Dave, we don't have a position for him. And I can remember it was like yesterday, and Dave Marr said, because Jay Revere worked for my father too as an assistant, as Dave Marr did at Wake Forest. And Dave said, God damn it, Jay. Butch is Claude's son. We're going to help him, all right? Look what Claude did for us. He goes, okay, I'll find something for him. And one of the things I think, Jason, that has always helped me in my life, even in my down times, I've always been a workaholic. I've always loved to work. And so I worked my ass off for 2 or 3 years, driving tractors and small dozers and shaping and doing stuff. And man, I couldn't wait to get back in the golf business. And
I was going to say, did you have any direction at that point, or any moment when you said, like you said, I need to get back in the golf business? Was it more about teaching, or is it more like I just need to get around it?
It took about a year and a half where I really realized how much I missed being around it.
Right.
My brother Dick was wonderful. About twice a month, we were at a site down at Clear Lake, south of Houston, a place called South Shore Harbor, I think it's called. And I was shaping some greens, shaping a tee late at night. Everybody go, I said, look, I'll work late. I want to do some work on this tee. And so just on a little box blade, just doing some shaping back. And I could always see Dickie's BMW coming across the dirt. I said, oh, damn, here comes my brother. So all I had on was a pair of boots and cut-off jeans, no shirt. I mean, I was tan like it couldn't be. And I saw Dick coming. I'm like, holy shit, I'm just covered in dirt. So I take my shoes and boots off, and there was a lake right by this tee. I just jumped in the lake and had a towel on a tractor, and I come out and drying myself off. I said, bro, what are you doing? He said, oh, I was just, he was lying. He said, I was just down there seeing Johnny Macca over at Clear Lake Country Club, a good friend, because we go fishing together. I just thought I'd stop by and see if you want to go have some dinner. And so I said, are you checking up on me, bro? He goes, no, I already know how you're doing. I talk to Dave and Jay every day. He says, you're doing great, Butch. I'm proud of you. And my little brother saved my life, Jason, to be honest with you. When he passed away, which was terrible.
It's a shame we lost him that soon, you know.
He was the best one in the family.
I know, I've heard you talk about him.
The most level-headed one, the smartest one, was a great club pro, great teacher, just a beautiful human being. And I can remember my brother Billy had the line of the century at Dickie's funeral, and we're up on this church in Houston that probably held, I don't know, 600-700 people. It was overflowing outside. There was so many people because Dick was so loved in Houston. And I'm sitting up there on the altar, and I'm just crying like a baby. And I said, Billy, somebody's got to talk before me. I said, I can't. I don't know what the hell I'm going to say. Billy goes, I'll go first. So Billy gets up there, and the church is so sad. I mean, everybody's crying. And Dick was such a loved person because he's such a beautiful person, great dad, great husband. I mean, everything about him was wonderful. And I got my head down, and I'm sobbing and crying. And Billy gets up there, and he talks, and then he stops, he turns around, looks at me, and he goes, looks back at everybody, goes, you know, I know exactly what Dad said when Dick walked into heaven the other day. He looked at Dick and said, Dick, how did Butch screw up that Tiger Woods deal? And I mean, the whole church burst out laughing. He didn't tell me he was going to say it. He didn't tell Craig he was going to say it.
Oh, my gosh.
And I looked up at him, and he just said, gotcha.
Oh, my gosh.
And from then on, it was a celebration.
That's fantastic.
But, I mean, it was just, if you could have heard this church, there's people, these 1,000 people or whatever were there, you burst into laughter. How did Butch screw up that Tiger Woods deal?
I got to get Billy's on the list. I got to get him on the show. Like, I follow him on Facebook. He just.
You'd love getting Billy on there. He's great. He is one funny son of a bitch. I'll tell you that. Oh, Billy, right now, you know, Billy's lucky to be alive. He beat cancer. About 2 years ago, he had a tumor on the back of his tongue that was bad, and fortunately, they couldn't operate on it. But with the radiation and chemo, they saved him, and he's doing great now. And Billy and I are born on the same day, 7 years apart. I'm 77, he's 70, and he's probably playing the best golf he's played in 20 years because he's rejuvenated. He's got a mulligan on life again because he went through alcohol rehab and stuff. I think he's almost 30 years sober now. So he speaks at Betty Ford's, involved in Betty Ford, does a lot for people that way. But damn, he's funny. But he's playing great. He's a good teacher too, but he's playing good. He's playing his ass off. He says he plays a lot. He says he enjoyed it. I was the best player in the family. The only one ever went on the tour and had some success. Billy, when he was younger, was unbelievable. I mean, when he was 15 and 16, he's winning tournaments shooting 65s and 6s, and he won the Met Juniors. He won the State Juniors. He won everything he could win in New York State. And he and Craig, I think they went at the same time, went to San Jose State together. Billy went on a golf scholarship. Craig was already going there. And he lost it. Completely lost his game. We talk about it all the time. I said, how did you lose? He goes, I don't really know. He says, you know me, how I played. He was the most simple player you've ever seen. He just aimed down the right side of the fairway, hit the most beautiful draw every time, and putted his ass off, so he won everything.
How involved was your father at that point as far as like being your guys' coach? Like I was always curious to how much he actually taught you guys as far as the life lessons, but just like literally giving you golf instruction. If
we wanted it and struggled with our game, he was there for you. He didn't push it on you. He'd tell you, and of course he'd get mad at you. I'd hit a bad shot. You go, I know what I did wrong. Well, damn it, if you knew what you did wrong, why are you doing it? He had all the Claude's pearls that I have in my book, The Pro, are all common sense.
Yes.
But Dad had a way of putting you in your place. And, you get so mad and you just want to go, F you and your green jacket.
Yeah.
You're thinking it, but you ain't saying it, And so he had a lot to do with all of us. And Billy being the youngest, and unfortunately my mom died at a very young age, and Bill was still very young when Mom died, and it didn't help him out either. But he could really play. And damn, he's funny. You know, and he caddied for Jay Haas. Probably caddied for all of Jay's victories.
Yeah,
Billy
I think you're right. Yeah.
And they both have sons named after each other. Billy has a son named Jay, and Jay has a son named Bill. And they're named after each other, which is pretty special.
That's so
cool. To
cool.
this day, Jay and Bill are really close. I mean, they're closest of friends, and they did Jay and Curtis Strange especially are the ones who really helped Billy get into rehab and turn himself around. You know, golf pros are great guys. They do so much.
Our community is really amazing, isn't it?
We do so much for each other.
Yeah.
And we have no problem doing it. You know, I used to remember my dad saying, you know what's great about this sport? He says, you could be in a tournament and a friend of yours isn't playing good and you go help him out. And he could beat you that week in that tournament and you never even think about it. He says, can you imagine a guy catching a pass at the end of a Superdome before instant replay and they go touchdown, you win the game? He goes, no, actually, I was really out of bounds. I wasn't in bounds. He goes, he'd get lynched. They'd kill him.
Yeah.
They'd shoot him or something. So nowadays, that's golfers call penalties on themselves. I mean, we play in such a great sport. And, you know, I'll go back to what I said when we started. Having been in this my whole life, I love it. It's my passion is this game. I love being around it. I love teaching. I know you asked me how I got into teaching. Well, you know, when I was a kid, I used to like to help the junior players I played with. No, I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. But I heard my dad say this, so I just say, well, let's try this, you know. So I always kind of liked doing it. So when it came time to go, that was an easy transformation for me. And I had a great mentor in my dad, you know. So I had a knowledge of when I was my first year at Winged Foot in '67, I was giving a lesson to a guy in the evening. Friend of the family, Bill DeChambeau, his name was, and he had the shanks. Well, I had no idea how you shank the ball. I said, he's good. I mean, he couldn't. It's a 30-minute lesson. I don't know. I think we were getting $20 or $15 or something per lesson in those days. And for 30 minutes, he never got a ball airborne. He shanked every single one of them. My dad was down further to the right, and he almost got hit twice with these shanks. And you know, I didn't understand at the time that a full swing shank, you actually shank with a closed club face.
That's right.
But it's a long, skinny divot because the toe comes into the hosel.
Yeah.
And I kept telling him, well, the face is open. Get that right hand in there. Well, he was getting it in there. And so finally,
made it worse.
After the lesson, I said, Mr. Giacomo, there's no way I can charge you, but I would have Dad come down here. You guys are good friends. He'll fix you in 2 balls or something. He goes, no, but you charge me. I said, no, I'm not doing it. So Dad came down and said, what's the problem, Butch? I said, well, Mr. Giacomo's got the shanks. Dad, I don't know how to get him out of you don't know how to get out of his shank. You know, oh, shit, here we go. I'm like, so 2 swings he had him. You know, he just put his head cover down to the right of the ball. He says, you make 1 swing, you're going to come over it this way, and you're going to hit the head cover. Just come from the inside. Club face will be square, bob up in the air. And he goes, why don't you write that down, Butch, so you don't forget that, okay?
That's fantastic.
People always say to us, Harmon, how do you guys have such quick wits? So if you grew up in our family, man, that was out of self-defense.
Yeah.
I think some of the great stories I tell of myself, one that I love to tell of myself, because I wish it hadn't happened to me. I think we were playing in Cleveland, and I'd missed about 4 or 5 cuts in a row. And so I called my dad a week, but Canadian Open's the next week. And, you know, those days we were rabbits. We had to qualify on Monday all the time. And so I called Dad. I said, hey, Dad, I said, I got a flight into LaGuardia. It's Friday night. And I said, I get into LaGuardia tomorrow about noon. And I can be out at Winged Foot at maybe 1:32. I got to have you watch me hit some balls. And if you could watch me on Sunday morning, I got to catch a flight to Montreal to try and qualify on Monday for the Canadian Open. He said, what do you mean? He said, I thought you were leading the tournament. I said, Dad, no, I played terrible. I missed the cut. He went, I must have had the paper upside down. I caught you in mid-drink of your wine there. I'm sorry.
Oh, my God.
I must have had the paper upside down. I'm thinking, that's a great line, but why the hell are you using it on me?
That's awesome.
But that's kind of how we grew up.
Yeah.
Dad's theory was he would shame you to make you mad. And then you'd say he knew that would make you work harder. Well, It worked great with the 2 middle boys, Craig and Dickie. They worked their ass off. Billy and I were rebels. We said, man, we're out of here. We can't take this shit. That's why I left home when I was 18. So,
yeah, it was funny. It was funny when we started talking about doing this. I love the book, the Pro that you wrote in 2006, and I'm like, I'm just going to pull it out because I remember reading it and I've read everything you've put out, but It was so cool that you're sort of reflecting on all the things that you learned from your dad. So
I was very honest in there. I talked about my downfalls.
I know it was so good, and so
Dick died while I was writing too.
I pulled out a couple of I love the way you structured the book, because you had your dad's pearls at the end, right? So what your learned lessons. So what I'm going to do is just give you a couple of these, and then have like a little follow up, and just tell me what you remember, right? So the first one that I really love was, it's what you learn after you know it all that counts.
So true.
So my question to you is, you've done everything, and the success you've had and all the things you've learned, is what drives you now to be better?
To never stop learning. So he said, never stop learning. I mean, I could give a lesson tomorrow and see a guy hit his shot from the worst position at the top of the swing, but somehow or another he got the club square and on the right path and hit a perfect shot, and you put it in your memory bank, and somewhere down the line you're going to see a guy gets in that position, and the light will go off and say, I remember this guy. This Jason Sutton guy, he was in the worst position up here. He hit it good, and this is what he did. And so you can't ever stop learning. I mean, I love talking about golf and golf swings, and heck, I don't know everything. Like I tell when I do seminars, I'll say, guys, look, I've invented nothing. What I'm going to tell you today, I've learned from trial and error, from listening to other people, going to seminars and stuff. I tell these young pros today, I said, look, here's what I would recommend you do. Pick out a guy that's a successful instructor that's doing a seminar that you disagree with everything he does. Mm-hmm. It could be stack and tilt. It could have been natural golf. It could be whatever it is. And one guy raised his hand. He goes, Mr. Harmon, why would I want to go to someone? I said, because you're going to learn something. And if you leave there only learning one thing, you're a better instructor than you were when you walked in that room. So never be afraid to learn. And listen, if guys are having success, there's a reason they're having success. When you agree with what they're doing, listen, learn from them. I took a lot of heat from friends of mine last year when I wanted to go take a lesson from Gigi, from George Gankas.
Yeah.
I came up with that idea with Golf Digest. I said, hey, let's try and pull this off. And they go, well, why would you want to do that? I said, well, first of all, I don't know the guy. I said, second of all, he's kind of out there, but he's having success. I'd like to hear what he's got to say. I said, I look at his Instagrams, and he's got flip-flops on and T-shirt and tennis shoes, but, guys are getting better. Yes. Doing what he's doing. I said, I think it'd be a good thing. We could do it for the internet part, and we'll do the part for the book and for the Golf Digest. And I had a ball with George. George and I became good friends.
Yeah.
And the best part about it was, Jason, I show up and he's got on nice slacks and a golf shirt. I said, dude, what are you doing?
He was being respectful.
I wanted to see the dude. He said, no, for Butch, I had to dress up.
That's great.
I said, no, I wanted to see the dude. I wanted to see the flip-flops and the T-shirt. Yeah. And unfortunately, my body wouldn't let me do a lot of what he would want me to do, and I knew that, but that's okay. I didn't care. I just wanted to have him give me a lesson, and I wanted to hear his delivery. I wanted to hear how he presented it. George reminds me, let's see, he's got so much passion, of Jimmy Ballard.
Yeah, there you go.
The passion Jimmy Ballard has when he teaches.
Yes.
I mean, it's phenomenal. Whether you agree with it, I happen to like Jimmy.
Maybe like a Tosky, maybe, right? Guy that's flair for the dramatic.
But, just a lot of passion. And George had that.
Yes.
And that was the one thing when we left that day, and when I talked to him every now and then after that, I tell him about that. I said, never lose that passion, man. I love your passion for teaching. And he goes, yeah, I know I'm out there. I said, well, look, I tell people, don't be afraid to think outside the box and dare to be different. Don't be a follower.
He's definitely
be yourself. Just be you. Just be you, but always be open-minded. You don't know it all. I don't know it all. So why do I not want to hear what someone else has to say? And I learned that from my dad. He was helping a young pro from Australia when I was an assistant there, and the kid had 4 top 10. What was his name? Last name was Shaw, I think, Bob Shaw or something like that. And all of a sudden he went to another instructor. And I said, Dad, doesn't this really irritate you that this guy, you had such success? He goes, no, maybe he thought he learned everything he can learn from me. He says, don't worry, Butch. If you ever get a decent player, he says, they'll leave you. So nothing lasts forever.
Yeah, that was one of my questions too, as we'll get to when we start talking about all the great players you've worked with. It's just part of our business, right? You got to have some thick skin because they're going to leave.
It's because if someone thinks they've learned all they can learn from you, and you and I are no different playing. If I feel like I can get better, want to hear it from someone else, and you get a kick out of this. I tell people in my golf schools, I said, now look, the best thing about this 3 days that we've spent together is from now on you can blame me for every bad shot you hit.
That's right.
Every time you hit a bad one, just cuss out Butch Harmon. I said, you're not going to bother me because I took 4 guys to number 1 in the world and 3 of them fired me. So you're not going to bother me at all. I said, no, don't worry about it.
That's right. I love it.
I always have wanted to learn. And that goes back to that saying, what you learn after you think you know it all is the most important stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I've had guys, teaching legends like yourself. Chuck Cook's been on here, Jim McLean, and I always ask them, with all the new information that we've had, or sort of new, I mean, I wouldn't say it's new, it's just measurable now, right, in the last 10, 15 years.
Presentation is different.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, obviously, in a lot of stuff, it goes back to, the message.
The message is probably the same, but the presentation is different.
Like, has there been any piece of information or anything you've learned in the last 10, 15 years that has changed the way you teach or coach?
Oh, heck yeah. First of all, equipment.
Any examples?
For one.
Yeah.
The way from wooden woods to metal woods to soft balata balls to solid balls, hardcore centers. The quality of the athlete we get today, especially at the young kids area who used to play football, basketball, baseball, they just play golf now, so we're getting better athletes. Equipment changed things completely, because when I played and when I grew up with a persimmon-headed driver and a soft ball, you had to have kind of a reverse seat to try and the ball would spin so much, and you're trying to get it in the air and do all this stuff. And when metalwoods came in the new balls, that went away. You had to get more on top of the ball to launch it off the top of the club, to try and launch it as high as you can with a little amount of spin. And so you had to change from feeling like you were behind the ball, or I like seeing people chest more on top of the ball.
Yeah, so teaching pivots changed a lot, right? Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
changed tremendous amount. I think the thing that hasn't changed are basic fundamentals, because they don't change. Grip, stance, posture, alignment, ball position. It takes no athletic ability at all to have good fundamentals. And if you start from a bad position, you're then going to have to do something wrong in your swing to hit a decent shot, so you got 2 negatives going together. The advent of the launch monitors, I think, has probably changed the game the most.
Sure.
I'm not sure it's changed it for the best, but it's here to stay, so we have to deal with it. I think one of the problems I have with a lot of young professionals who teach is they never watch the guy swing and they never watch the ball. They instantly go to their computer, okay, you're 4 degrees from the inside, you're 5 degrees down. Well, why don't you tell the guy why? Why don't you tell him, you're talking to an 18 handicap and you're telling him he's 6 degrees down and this, he doesn't know what the hell you're talking about. He's hitting a big balloon slice out there because he's so over the top and the club face is wide open, the club face is wide open at the top. Why don't you show him how to hit a hook? Make him happy or something. And so I use the technology. We use all the technology. I had young Maverick McNealy out I was working with this morning. He was testing some new clubs and stuff. And we had the launch monitors out, just testing the yardages and stuff. I really don't use the launch monitors to teach. I use them more for equipment changes and different shafts, different heads, different balls, so that people can actually see. I mean, I can see it with my eyes, but it gives them an awareness of what they're doing and stuff and how the ball's spin. I did a seminar in Iowa last year in the wintertime, and I had a guy ask me, so Mr. Harmon, we understand that you don't really like modern technology. I said, no, that's actually not true at all. I said, I play dumb a lot, acting like I don't understand what any of the numbers are, but I said, I use it in my academies and stuff. I understand it completely. I said, as a matter of fact, I brought two launch monitors with me here today, and they go, well, where are they? I said, they're right here. My eyes. Those are my launch monitors. I can see the ball spin.
Ball flight.
Jason, the way you were taught, where the ball starts, the spin on the ball, the shape on the shot pretty much tells you the path of the swing and the club face angle of impact. That's what made John Jacobs so good. Yeah. That's why practical golf is such a great.
That's right.
Any of you listening to this, it's hard to find it because but they're out there. And if you're a young golf professional, I just hired a guy a couple months ago, and I make him read it. I said, you got to read this whole thing, and I'm just going to walk by you one day and say, hey, the path is covered for me, and you better have an answer. I tell him. And so I think the art of watching the ball is gone, because the ball tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Where it starts, the spin, the curvature, the trajectory, the altitude or no altitude, pretty much tells you everything that's just happened in the swing, if you know anything about the ball flight laws.
Yeah, and it was interesting. But even coming up, we actually had it backwards for a minute. You know what I mean? And we find, and I think TrackMan definitely helped us to verify that. The club face is responsible for start direction.
I don't think, and everybody has put it. And now you have the indoor teaching facilities where they do everything hitting into a net, and all they use is that because that's all they have. And it's good, yes. Don't get me wrong. I don't dislike it. I think, for me, one of the strengths that I've had with good players is I have a good eye.
Yes.
I see a golf swing, and I probably see 200 or 300 things at one time. I mean, I see a guy starting to swing. I can see his grip stance, posture, ball position, alignment, path, club face angle, arm plane, shaft plane, club head position. And I see it all. It's like to me, and it just goes into my brain. I can't tell you why. I just have been gifted with that ability to see that, and then I can diagnose what we need to do, and then I show them on the film. This is all right. Here's what I see, and let me show you why. And I try. I think golf's hard. And I try and make teaching as simple as I can make it. We were taught, as you read in the book, Dad used to say, you need to teach golf at a second grade level. So a kid in the second grade can understand what you're talking about. And a lot of times I try and do one seminar a year at a different one around the country because I think it's important to give back and help. And every now and then I'll get these young pros that'll ask you a crazy question. I say, well, so where was the ball going? Well, the numbers said this. No, where was the ball going? He goes, no, the angle. No, please, where did the ball go? Did you not watch? No, I really wasn't watching the ball. I said, well, that's what the guy's hitting. This is. We didn't have all this shit when I was.
That's right. We did an exercise when I started. We had video and literally we'd take video away, and we'd play, or we'd play a video really fast at full speed, and Dana would ask us, all right, what'd you see? Write it down. Right, it'd have to be that quick, right? Because you, especially when you're teaching on tour, you better have that, or you're going to get fired, right?
I know you want to get back on these pearls because they're pretty good.
That's all right. I got a lot of stuff. I'm good.
and for me, the ball doesn't lie. The ball pretty much tells us everything we need to know. We lie to ourselves. We've never hit a bad shot. It's just, this or that. No, you hit it. You're the only one made it move. It ain't moving till you move it. It's only going to move in the direction you move it in. And I think that's why so many great athletes love golf, because they're used to being in a team where a team does something to make them look good. Well, shit, you got to make yourself look good in golf. And so when we didn't have any of that, we didn't even have video cameras. We didn't have any of that stuff. We looked at the ball. We look at the divots.
You work backwards.
You can learn a lot from the divots. And then you decide what you're which way you're going to go. And Dad always used to say, look, pick out the cancer in the swing. It's like when you go to the doctor. You got a broken finger, a sprained wrist, and you have cancer. Well, we're going to forget about the broken finger and the sprained wrist. We're going to get the cancer out. So look at the one thing in the swing that causes all the problems. And the one thing that we Harmons have always been so successful at is we can fix the one thing that lets 4 or 5 other things fix themselves. Where a guy doesn't know what he's doing, he's telling the guy to do 4 different things to try and fix one fault. And so fix the cancer and stay on it. I mean, when I give an hour lesson, if I've diagnosed what this guy is doing, we're not moving on until he's not doing it any further.
Right.
Because it doesn't do any good to get off of it, because this is the thing that's causing all the other problems. And then all of a sudden, maybe the guy came too much from the inside, he'd be a decent player, because the high handicappers err over the top, good players err underneath. And underneath they time it, and then all of a sudden it goes away. And once you fix whatever that fault is, all of a sudden a whole bunch of other things fall into place, and the guy starts hitting it good, and they go, wow, is it really that simple? I said, no, but what you were doing wrong, all you had to do is understand it.
Yes.
I told you what you were doing. I showed it to you on the film and showed you how we're going to fix it. And now we're going to work on it. If it's going to take us 2 hours, we're going to work on it, because you're not leaving here until you're not doing this anymore. And I don't think you and I have done this for so long, and we have decent reputations, so I can get away with saying stuff differently.
Yes. Yeah, presence is what I call it.
I could, because I have a track record and so on and so forth. I mean, my dad, he would give 30-minute lessons, and in 5 minutes, he had you. So he may spend 15 minutes with a guy and said, okay, Jason, I'm going to move on now. I'll be right down here. I'll be watching. You go, oh, wait a minute, Mr. Harmon. Didn't we have a 30-minute lesson? I'm paying for a 30-minute lesson. You say, let me explain something to you, pal. When you go to the doctor and he diagnoses what's wrong with you and gives you the prescription, he doesn't hold your hand for the next 30 minutes or the 25 minutes. I'll be over here. Don't worry. I'll be watching. You keep doing what you were doing.
I wish we could get more to understand that. It's like if you fix them in 15 minutes, it's done. The rest of it's just watching you hit golf balls.
I wish I could get away with that. I wish I could get to that point. Well, I've worked hard, and I can get to that point. And sometimes you have. See, I think the difference between me and a lot of instructors is I'm brutally honest.
Yeah.
Most tour players, majority of people around them are kissing their ass.
Yeah, I love the quote. I want to cut you off there because you're flowing on me here. This is great. Okay. It said the Harmons tell it like it is. No window dressing. We are pathological truth tellers. I love that. So continue.
But I'm getting paid to tell you what I see, what's wrong, and everybody else, they're afraid to lose their job. Number one. They got a job with a tour player who's playing pretty good. Well, they can see that he's doing something wrong, but he's playing halfway decent, which means it's not going to be consistent. Well, they're afraid to say it. Well, I've got no problem telling you. I'm going to tell you what I think. It's a great story of Rickie Fowler in 2013 at the Open Championship at Muirfield when Phil won, which was truly one of my great joys of my coaching career, because he never thought he could win a British Open. It took me a long time to really get through his stubbornness of taking the ball out of the air and putting it on the ground, and he finally did. And he won the Scottish, then he won the British. But Rickie had played a practice round, and I knew Rickie, and he played a lot with Phil, so I'd seen him play a lot. And he was playing so bad, it was unbelievable. And so he calls me up Friday night, and he says, "Hey, Butch, after your guys tee off tomorrow, I missed the cut. I'm playing so bad." I said, "Yeah, I know. I saw you in the practice round. It's not looking good. Could you come watch me hit some balls?" And yeah, I said, "I'll be happy to. Let me get everybody in the course." So he comes out, and we're hitting balls. Rickie's old swing, he'd drag the handle back and drop away under, and he had tremendous hand speed. And he'd come from way to the inside, but he did it all with timing. And when his timing was good, it was good. When it wasn't, it wasn't. And so I explained that to him. I said, "Look, you got the club so far inside going back that if you don't come a little over it, you got no chance." He goes, "Well, I didn't have a chance this week." So I hit it all over the place. I said, "All right, I'm going to show you a little drill. It's simple. I'm going to have you take the club back to just waist high. Your left arm's parallel to the ground, and we're going to stop. But I'm going to show you where the club is. You can look back at it and see that this club is not behind your body. It's right here. It's right in line with your feet." And I said, "And then I'm going to tell you to go, and I want you to go up and hit it." And it's a simple drill that works really well with good players. Well, he must have hit 10 or 12 ground balls. He couldn't even get it airborne from there because he was so used to coming from here. By this time, people had seen, Rickie's like an icon. Even then, 7 years ago, they see him on the range, and now there's 300-400 people, and they're watching him. He can't get it airborne. And he says to me, "Are you going to make a fool out of me with this damn drill in front of all these people?" I said, "No, I think the score you just shot for 36 holes make a fool out of you." I said, we need to get working on this. He kind of looked at me like it pissed him off, and he went,
"Truth hurts."
You're right. So I've always been very honest with my players. I've never sugarcoated it. I have tremendous passion for what I do. I have tremendous patience. It's probably the only patience I have in my life is teaching golf, because I don't have any when I play or around the house or anything. And so if I see it and I think it's wrong, even if you're playing well, I got to tell you. Because this is what you're doing. You're catching up with timing, and as you know, what happens is a guy can win a tournament swinging poorly because he's timed it and he made putts and he got up and down, and then next week he plays halfway decent, and then he misses 2 cuts in a row. Well, what happened? Well, you were coming from a bad position, and it just got worse and worse and worse, and you didn't make all the putts, you didn't chip in 3 times, and all of a sudden you're not playing very good. So I have always been one, even if a guy's playing good, I'll say, "Look at this young kid, Maverick McNealy, who's a good player."
He's very good,
Maverick, yes. And he's a great young man. One of the nicest young men. Just what he finished 12th in his last tournament in Mexico. Mm-hmm. Was a great player at Stanford. And we were working on some stuff for next year. We looked at his stats, and I use proximity to the hole all the time with iron shot stats. I'm not that concerned about fairways aren't that important anymore like they used to be,
right,
because the guys hit so far and they're hitting wedges to every hole anyway. Unless they really narrow the fairways and make them hard and fast, that doesn't matter. So I look at proximity to the hole. And so we were talking about his proximity to the hole.
So what was his, and kind of what do you like to see?
He drives the ball very well. Mm-hmm. Good releasing type swings. He's always going to drive it good. His very similar to Dustin Johnson a few years ago, and I got him to work on his wedge game. I showed him his proximity to the hole from 150 yards in. In DJ's case, it wasn't bad. It was horrendous. I said, you play every damn hole from under 150.
I was going to say, yeah, that's his bread and butter.
And look what happened to him. He went to work at it. And I said, look, we've got to get your proximity to the hole is 19 to 23 feet from 130 yards. That's not getting it. I said, you're hitting a wedge. You should be in there. We need to get in the 10, 11, 12-foot range, right, or closer. So we were working on ball flight today. He was hitting the ball too high. Mm-hmm. Swing was a little long, just bringing the ball flight down, bringing it down. And now he's not going to play again until the hole. So this is our time that we can do the work. But he had a couple little other things nitpicking I didn't like. For example, if you watch a guy's backswing, and if his left knee does it, a right-hander, if his left knee doesn't come back just a little, if it goes straight out towards the ball, he's got all his weight on it. And his shoulders are going to tilt.
His hips can't turn either, right?
No, the right hip's going to get – then he's got to get out of that coming down. And he was actually just hitting a little 80-yard wedge shot. I said, wait a minute, you got a little too much weight on it. It's kind of – listen, I said, I'm going to nitpick you today because you're swinging pretty good, but there's a couple things we need to fix because this is our time we can work on it for almost 2 months and be ready when you go to the Hope. I call it the Hope, whatever they call it now. And so, we just changed those things. Ball flight changed instantly. We had the monitor down there. I said, okay, look at our distance control. Look how much better this distance control is.
What do you like to see, like launch angle with wedges?
It depends on the individual. A lot depends on how weak or strong their grip is, how much throw they have in their swing, how much lag they have in their swing. I like seeing the ball down with most short irons. I don't like it way up high because you control the distance of it. To me, the next greatest ball striker of all time, other than Ben Hogan, was Lee Trevino.
Yeah.
And he controlled his trajectory better than anybody I've seen other than Mr. Hogan. Even Tiger in his prime, who was as good as we could see in modern day time, but Trevino was amazing. And I learned from watching those guys, when the ball's way up here, you don't have as much control of it as when you bring it down. And so we just worked on trying it with different wedges and different swings, hitting three-quarter shots, 3 different shapes of shots, just watching the flight of it going up and down, up and down. And I'd make him change his targets and hit a different shot. Mm-hmm. Just little things. He was getting a little narrow at the top. I wanted that right hand. I like to see the right hand far away from the head so your arms come down in front of your body. So just small things. It was just nitpicking. It wasn't that he was swinging bad, but this is the time we got to fix stuff. Whatever we see is wrong. So let's use all the technology. He's got a guy that does all his stats for him. And we had a stack of paper this thing.
I bet. Yeah, that kid's so smart.
And I'm going through it so fast. He said, what about that? I said, I don't give a shit about that. I said, I'm just looking at different, I'm getting to different areas.
I know it's lower than you when you started, right?
And so we're looking at all this stuff. But everybody's different. Mm-hmm. I think, for me, tour players, if you're a tour player, a really good player, depending on your grip, strong or weak, I'd rather see you stronger than weak, but depending on your grip, if I can get the player the right position at the top of his swing, the rest of it gets easy. But to get there is a path. You can't be too much in, too much out. You got to have to get the club on path and get to this position. People say to me all the time, why didn't you change Dustin Johnson's shut club face at the top? I said, first of all, if you had to choose, I'd rather see you play from a shut position than an open position, because all you got to do is hold on to it if you're strong enough coming down.
Right.
And I said, I've seen players play really well from there. He goes, yeah, David Duval was like that. I said, no, my father played from there. My father was very shut. I saw my whole life one of the best ball strikers I've ever seen.
Your dad had a really fast pivot, right? He's had a lot of good body
Trevino
motion.
played from a shut position.
Yep.
So you amazing
matched up.
There's a lot of stuff I said. And Maverick gets the club in a good position at the top, but he just was getting sloppy. It's the end of the year. That's
Sure.
it. And he works hard. This kid really works hard. I said, this is what we got to work on. I'm going to give you a couple things. I don't like the way your right foot is coming up a little early on these short iron shots. I want to see the heel go ahead of the toe a little bit, and then let the momentum pull it off. So we put a baseball in by his right heel. I said, now you got to move this baseball in this swing. He just hit a 9-iron.
Right.
And the first one he missed it because his right foot was coming up high and going back. I said, see, that's because you're opening up too much in your lower body. I want to see you more this way. Just little bitty things.
Mm-hmm.
But little things are what keep you consistent, because golf's a game of consistency.
Right.
And going back to the other thing is, these guys they all pay me a lot of money. My fees are pretty high. Thank you, Lord, for allowing me to get to this position.
I'm still working on that.
And they don't pay me to kiss their ass. They pay me to help them. And so I've always tried to do that. Now, I do it in a nice way. I'm not ugly about it. I'm not a prick about it. But if this is what we got to do, I can explain to them why they have to do it. And I know one of the success of your podcast, because I like listening to them, is you always have a lot of teachers on.
Yes.
And as I tell a lot of the young teachers, look, man, your job is to help the guy. All right. Number one, you got to be a professional. You got to be on. If you teach all day long like I do, the hardest lesson of the day, when I lived in Houston where it was hot and humid, is the last one.
That's right. Because
you're worn out. You've been teaching for 6 hours, 7 hours, and you get this guy that's a 16 handicap. As my dad used to say, I'd give a guy 100 not to take the lesson. You know? I said, but you have to be a professional. You have to give it 100% of effort every time you go out there. The guy's taking off work to come see you. So you have to, and I see a lot of younger guys, all they care about is how many lessons they can give and how much money they can make. And I tell the 6 of them that work for me, that teach under me, I said, if I ever see you guys becoming that person and not really giving it 100% of effort every time you give a lesson, you're gone. I said, because this guy's paying you good money. And that's why all the guys that work for me never leave, because they're all making too much money. They don't want their own job. They don't know, we're fine, bro. I mean, pro jobs will come up. I say, any of you guys got any interest? No, we don't have any interest. Because they've listened to me talk about how nice it is not to have members.
Exactly right. I was down that road too.
I had members for 2 days or 3 days in golf school, then they're gone.
Yep. So let's build on that with Maverick. And I've watched you teach a lot from afar, just at tour events and like the Masters. And something that I've really learned from you is the value of getting sort of that width in the swing. Right. Mm-hmm. I know we don't teach methods, but talk a little bit about the importance of that. Because, I mean, I think I watched you work with Jose and Maria. I've watched you work, with Tiger, obviously. And a lot of these guys, if they get narrow, especially when they got a guy that's like swinging left too much, I always tell my guys, it's like width is your friend because it shallows out the bottom of the swing. So talk a little bit about why you think that's important and how you train it.
I have to give David Ledbetter and Nick Faldo a little kudos on that. I can remember, 35 years ago, whenever it was, maybe 4 years ago. I can't even remember how long ago it was. Now Nick took off for a whole year and David redid his swing. And it wasn't as much width as I like to see, but it wasn't inside. And a lot of chest movement forward and stuff, which I really liked and enjoyed seeing it. And then for me, when I started working with Steve Elkington in the 80s, was the first tour player I really had some success with way back in mid-80s. And from there to Davis Love III, worked with Davis. And Davis had tremendous width in his swing.
Yeah, he did.
Really wide and got his hands really high. And he was one of the longest hitters back in those days. I can remember watching that going, boy, this is different. We've all tried to get somebody to swing around their body. And I said, look at how wide he is and how high he gets his hands. And I kind of like this. This is good because now you get your arms down in front of your body. You're not trapped in behind you. The shaft's not on your shoulder when you come down with too much lag in it. Mm-hmm. And then you got to back up and get out of the way. And so I started watching Davis's swing. And then when I went from Davis and got to work with Greg, Greg was a little bit of remember the big foot slide he had and how he reversed seat and stuff, and I parlayed that into getting him a little wider and shorter and more on top of it. One of the things, Jason, I think I'm the most proud of, if you go up and down on a range at a tour event, you can pretty much tell who the guy's working with by how he swings. I pride myself on, other than Adam Scott, who looks like Tiger Woods.
He wanted to look like Tiger Woods, right?
That's how he grew up.
Yes.
When he came to me when he was a freshman at UNLV at 18, that's how he swung. And I
Yes.
said, oh, shit, I've seen this before. This is pretty good.
Yeah.
You can't tell any of them are Butch Harmon students because they're all different. They all have different swings because I don't believe in a system. I don't believe there's one way to swing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try and never take away what a person does naturally, just make it better. Because we all have, I don't care how good you are, you got flaws in your swing. And if we can get those out of there and make you better, but you still keep your natural ability, because these bad habits are going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to sneak back in there because you've done it forever. And tour players have hit a zillion balls. And so you have to constantly be on top of it. But to me, I found width on both ends of the swing now. Not just on the backswing. If you're wide here and narrow on the front, it doesn't matter how wide you are going back. So you got to be wide on both ends. You got to have the width going back. So when you come down, the club's not behind you. The shaft isn't laying on your shoulder. So you got to back that spine up. You can deliver the club face on the right path because your torso's rotating. Your arms are in front of your body, and then you have to extend out, not out to the right, just out as you turn.
Yeah.
You have the width on both ends actually looks very similar. I was showing that to Maverick today because he's got good width in his swing. And so I would say I look at that a lot. I like to see it, and some people have more than others. Some people, older people, struggle because they're not flexible enough to get the width and turn,
right?
Which I've run into. I mean, I can swing in a phone booth now. My backswing's so short, but you know.
You're trying there, man. I'm impressed.
Man, I like it. I'm
watching your Instagram post. You're working, man.
I got my handicap down to 4.2 now, so I'm struggling playing to it, but that's what it is. I turn in all my scores and stuff. It's easy to. The one thing about getting old, it's easy to shoot your age now. I mean, I can shoot 77. If I go up and play from the tees I should play from, versus where I play with my buddies, I like to play at about 64, 63, 64, 6,500 yards. My buddies are back. When I play with them, we're at 67, 68. I'm a little bit at a disadvantage, but that's all right. I still kick their ass.
There you go.
It doesn't matter. But I think width is very important in the golf swing. I think it's very important. I think grip-wise, I'd rather see a little stronger than weak.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're weak, you're going to have to catch up with your hands too much. If you're a little stronger and you rotate, the club's going to stay square coming into the ball. You got to look at flexibility. You've got to look at when you're dealing with your club members or stuff in golf schools. You got to look at a guy's willingness to practice. Does he just want to play, or does he like to practice? And you got to know all that before you decide what you're going to do with a guy. Because if the guy doesn't like to practice, you can't give him too much to work on. You just pick out what that one thing is and fix it, and he's got to go play. Because
commitment level is a big deal.
Think about when you're a club pro, like I was. You could give a guy a 30-minute lesson, and he goes out and doesn't play very good, and he throws it all out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I always use Tiger as an example. I said, look, change takes time. You're going to regress before you get better.
I tell that story all the time.
Part of the I said, look at Tiger Woods. He wins the Masters in 1997, breaks the record, and wants to change his swing because he didn't like that the club was a little across and this. And I said to him at the end of the year, we were talking about what we were going to do in the offseason. I said, yeah, we can. I said, I agree. We can change all that. But I said, it's going to take a while, so why don't we do it a little at a time? I said, no, I want to do it all right now.
Yeah.
All right now. I said, well, 98's not going to be a good year, so I don't care. He only won once in 1998.
So at that point, did you have some doubts of, like, you're listening to the player, obviously, but you as a coach, you're like, let's just keep doing this? Or did you like it? Did you like it a bit more on line at the top because the club would come less underneath?
Yes, not knowing his talent level, I knew he could do anything I asked him to. He had already proved that to me. He could do that as a teenager.
Gotcha.
So
you were good right away, going, yeah, let's.
Well, no,
let's
I said we can do this a little bit at a time because I was going to start with get the takeaway a little better, a little more width there and at the top, and then we work on it. No, let's do it all right now, and strengthen his grip just a little. And 98 he won one tournament.
Yeah.
And then came 99, and then came 2000, and then came 01.
2000 kind of worked out, didn't it?
Yeah, nine and three majors.
Unbelievable.
67 scoring average. The argument all the time is, who's the greatest player of all time? Jack Nicklaus or Tiger Woods? Well, how about a tie? because it's two different eras. So,
Yeah.
I would say Jack Nicklaus is the greatest champion of all time. Not only has he won 18 majors, what's he got, 19 seconds?
Yeah, it's incredible.
In about 13 or 14 thirds. I mean, the guy could have won 30 majors. I mean, so he's the greatest. Yeah, I think Tiger Woods is probably the best player I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not one better than the other. They're the two greatest American players of all time. So I used him as an example. I said, here's the guy's the best player in the world.
Yeah.
Took him 1 year to feel comfortable. 1 year. He called me up on the phone one day in the fall. He said, Butch, I finally feel it. I finally got it. I know exactly what you want me to do. I can do it now. We're going to be great. Good. No kidding.
After 5,000 freezers, right? You had to take him taking it up to the top, sticking it up there, holding it, and then hitting the ball.
Listen, if you go back and look at the old stuff we did with Kessler on
I was about to bring that up. That is my favorite episode.
He talks about that drill where I used to make him stop up here and start to swing, and he hated it. He said that on that show.
Yeah.
He said, I hated that drill, and you made me do that all the time. I said, yes, I did. It turned out okay, didn't it? He goes, yeah, but I didn't like it.
That was the best. Yeah, I think that was the coolest show. I wish they'd bring that back because it was.
That was a fun show.
It really was, and I was funny you bring that up because I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, and he's, basically he went through his whole golf swing. You guys were working on about 6 different things, right?
And he wanted to do it all, which I don't like to do, but he wanted it. That was the way he was, and that's what makes him so great.
Well, what it also
and God
did,
gave him more talent than anyone else.
Oh yeah, I mean, like he's a dream student, right, at that time. But what it also highlighted was something that I enjoy that we sort of appreciate together is slow motion swings and freezers, right? So he was saying, I stick it up on the top. I basically feel like the club comes down in front of me, which obviously it doesn't do when you start adding rotation because he was getting the club stuck behind him. Like it was all very exaggerated moves. And the average golfer looks at that and goes, that's crap. I'm like, no, this is the way you learn how to change a pattern.
You hit the nail on the head with slow motion swings. Yeah. I make guys hit balls with slow motion swings.
Me too. I love it.
And they
Deep
say,
practice.
why? I said because you can physically put the club in the position you want it in.
And you can feel something.
Well, you can actually feel what you're trying to do. Yeah. And here's the interesting thing. A lot of times feel and real aren't really what you're doing.
There you go.
You feel you're doing this, and I'll say, no, you're not. Well, I came over the top of that. No, actually, you were too far underneath. You go, no, I came over the top, so let me show you on the film. You go,
yeah.
Oh, son of a bitch, I was too far under. I said, yeah, I know. That's what I just told you.
Face was closed. Yeah, ball starting to the left.
And this, and we go in trends. There seems to be trends.
Yeah.
The trend the last 2 years is swing left. Swing left. Everybody wants to swing left. I mean, if you swing left, you got no extension, you got nothing. What people don't realize, Jason, when you look at a good player in a magazine, where he's about halfway through his finish and his right arm's extended and the club's way out here, and they see those hands fully released.
Yeah.
So if you bring those hands back, they're dead square.
Yeah.
It's not a flip over. We're not turning the doorknob here. We're not trying to flip the right over the left hand. And what happens when people start swinging a high handicap? They start trying to swing left, they're going to hit the biggest slices in the world. I mean, his ball's going to look like a wounded flamingo coming in for a landing with only one wing, and he's flapping, and this sumbitch is going to the right.
Yeah.
And so slow motion swings are wonderful.
Yeah, and understanding how the club moves, like getting people to hit proper draws, which is the handle moving left, but the club head still moving down and out, is eye-opening to so many players out there that think they have to swing the entire golf club out to the right.
What people don't realize is the more they swing to the left, the more the ball's going to go to the right. The more they swing to the right, the more the ball's going to go to the left. But they can't understand that.
Right.
I'll put a box on the ground, maybe 2 club boxes, and I said, okay, I want you to swing out and miss this. They're clanking it in. I said, no, swing this. Feel like you're swinging out here more. Well, then it'll go straight to the right. No, actually, it won't. You'll actually hit a nice little draw here in a minute, and you got to strengthen the grip, get the club face a little better going back. But I said, let's get on the right path. And, that's what John Jacobs' book's all about, path and club face angle. And it's so simple. Mm-hmm. That's what my dad was all about. He said it's not as hard as we make it. And that is so true. So true. I mean, look at Dustin Johnson. Look at how this guy has become the best player in the world. He has worked so hard. And it took me a long time to get him, because all he hit when he was younger were draws. That's all his eyes saw. When we would practice, he didn't even know how to fade a ball. I had to show him the Jack Nicklaus way, the simplest way. Just aim the club face where you want the ball to come down, like on a fade, and put your body parallel left and make a swing, take it back a line of your feet, and it'll slide. It won't curve so much. Well, he would do it in practicing, but he'd never do it in a tournament. And we went maybe 4 or 5 years. And every time we practiced, I'd show him how to hit fades. I'd show him how to fade the driver. I said, look how good you hit this. This is going to be your go-to. I don't know if I can do that. One day he calls me up from Florida. He goes, hey, Butch, I played today, and I decided to try and hit fades off the tee. Man, I hit it good. You think I should do that? I said, yes, I think that's a good idea.
That sounds like my son right there.
Just plant the seed.
Kicks in about 2 years later.
Yeah, you got to plant the seed.
That's awesome.
You know, Dustin Johnson, you look at what he did at Augusta, and I truly believe this, Jason. When DJ's on, I don't think he can be beat.
No, he proved that.
He's the closest to Tiger Woods when he's on.
Yeah.
Now, Tiger was on for 20 years. Therein lies the difference. Mm. But when this kid is on, he's pretty hard. I actually think if you took DJ, if you took Rory, if you took Rahm, if you took Justin Thomas, anybody you want to think of, and they all played their best, if Dustin plays his best, he's going to win.
Can't touch him.
Because he's got all everything he needs. He's got it. And besides that, he takes his balls to the first tee in a wheelbarrow.
Yeah.
Because he ain't afraid of anybody. He's got the biggest set of nuts on the tour. And he has no memory.
I was going to say, that's the thing. Is like
literally never happened.
He's got the greatest mental game in the history of golf.
You can't teach that.
Yeah.
You know, people say, well, you're listening to Dustin Johnson's interviews. He doesn't seem like he's the brightest guy. So let me tell you what, he's sly like a fox.
Yeah,
okay? He's playing you in those interviews because then he doesn't get asked a lot of questions.
Right.
But when he tees off, he's a golf genius. Don't worry about him. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Tell you what, that was a clinic as far as golf course management. I mean, I know you know Scott Fawcett, and I'm friends with him and do Decade, and he put out the stat that I think the last 13 holes of the last round of the Masters, he missed, I think, every shot on the fat side of the green. Yeah. You tell me that guy doesn't know what he's doing?
He and I have talked about it afterwards. I was telling some friends the other day, I said, now see the difference. You think that DJ is just a bomber. He's going out as hard as he can. Because I said he's going about 80%. Said on Sunday he hit 2 hard drives. Hit it on 8. He went after it on 8 because he knew at 305 he could carry the bunker.
He smashed that one.
And he did it on 18 just to stick it up everybody's ass because he knew that he'd already won the tournament.
Exactly.
And he killed both of them.
Yeah.
I said, no, but he's not doing that on every hole. And if you go back to 19 when Tiger won, Tiger on the back 9 on Sunday started hitting that fade off the tee. He started putting the ball in the fairway, put the ball in the fairway, put the ball in the fairway. So the DeChambeau way of playing it is fun to watch, but I'm not sure the longevity of it. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong because he proved it works, but we'll have to see if it can work for a long time.
So let's go through a few of your players and give me just a take on them, some of the legends and obviously some of the young guys that you're working with now. But I like the old guys. I like tell me about Seve. Like, tell me about your experience working with Seve.
I love Seve. Seve and Jose Maria. Ollie's one of my best friends in the world.
I know.
I love that guy. He has, and they're two different players. Seve had all the natural talent in the world. Jose Maria didn't have any. Jose had to work his ass off. Seve was great. Well, Seve, as you know, had gone to McElgrady. And if there was ever a field player and not a mechanical player, it was Ballesteros. He didn't have it. And he was so confused. It was in 95. And he came to see me in Houston at Lochinvar. We started doing some work together. And he asked me if I could come and spend 2 weeks with him and live with him at his house in Padrena, where he grew up, and work. I said, sure, I'll go. So we went, and he's still trying to do this mechanical stuff, and I'm trying to get him out of all this. I don't want any mechanical. Seve, I don't want you to think about one thing. I just hit a draw out there for me. Bush, how you want me to hit the draw? I don't give a damn how you hit it. Just hit one. You freaking Seve Ballesteros, for God's sake. Hit me a draw. He wouldn't practice on the range. So one day we go out. We got on the course and he'd have a guy shagging his balls, and nobody was going to tell him he couldn't do it, because he was Seve. So I said, all right, I'm sick of this shit. I'm sick of trying to tell you what to do, and you're not listening to me. And this is pretty much how I said it. I said, so here's the deal. I'm going to walk out about 15, 20 yards right in front of you. You had a 5-iron. I said, I'm going to tell you how to hit every shot around me. No, Bush, I fucking killed you. Don't go there, Bush. I said, no, I'm just going to tell you. We're not going to think about how we're going to do it. You're just going to do it. I fucking kill you. He says, no, you can't do it. I said, okay, I'm doing it. So I walked out. I said, all right, hit me a nice little draw around me. How you want me to hit it? I said, I don't care. Just don't hit me. It started to the right and dropped. Perfect. Went high, low, left, right, left. Every ball coming down at the caddy because he finally got out of things. Yeah. I walked away and the ball started going all over the place. Think about it. I said, let me explain something to you. When you hit the ball out in the shit, you see stuff we don't see. Mm-hmm. You see an opening in the tree branches, and you see a trajectory that whatever the club is that hits that trajectory, and then you see a shape, and you never once think about how you're going to do it. You just go in there, and you know how Seve used to get there. He'd look at it like this, and he'd look at it, talk, and he'd hit it perfect every time. I said, now, I just proved to you can do that when I stood there. And as soon as I walked away, you started thinking about it. So we're not going to think about this shit anymore. I've got you in a good position at the top now. Now we're just going to start hitting shots. And, you know, it was funny. I went there for 2 weeks, and a few weeks later he won the Spanish Open, and he was back to being Seve again.
So what was any mechanics that you worked on? You said top of the swing. Like what was?
Oh, well, he was get the club way in. Was right hip was high. He was reversing in his shoulders, and then he had to come out, and he had a lot of knee slide. If you remember Seve's swing, he had a lot of knee slide. He moved into it that way, and he'd back up, and he was just trying to be so mechanical, you know. Well, you know, Max, say I have to go to P1, P2, P3. I said, the swing will be over with by the time you're on P3. Seve. The swing's over with in a second and a half. So we're sitting in his club room, down in his little basement area where he had all his clubs. And, you know, back in the day, all the Scotty Cameron does this now, but back in the day, every time you won a tournament with a pink putter, they gave you a gold-plated putter.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm in his club room, and I thought I was in freaking Fort Knox. I mean, there was just
a lot of answer putters.
There's a lot of those answers there, and it's like 2 or 3 in the morning. I look down, there's like 6 empty Riaka bottles on the floor. We're both shit-faced.
I love it.
Our wives have gone to bed a long time ago, and we're talking about this stuff. And I said, you know, I don't know why you agonize over your driver. You never were that good a driver anyway. I said, it's not that big a deal. I said, with your creativity and stuff, I said, I'm going to get you to drive better. But you never were great. Don't you tell me, Bush, I wasn't a good. I drive the ball fucking good. I said, you won the Open. They lived in St. Anne's. On a 16th hole, they were parking cars out there. They had to move a car so you could hit your second. I said, yeah, but I make birdie. I make birdie on hole, Bush. I make birdie, you see. I see I made birdie from the freaking car park, dude.
I love it.
And so we were getting in this argument because we both had so much to think. Don't you tell me I can't drive the ball. I show you tomorrow what a good driver I am. I said, no, you're going to have to because I think you're a shit driver. So the next day we go out. He must have hit a few wedges and an 8-iron and just grabbed a driver. So we're doing. I got to show you I can hit this fairway. I said, okay, let's hit the fairway. I said, what kind of shot you going to hit? What you want me to hit? I said, I want to see you hit it was kind of a little downhill, went to the right. I said, it's a fade shot, but I want to see you start over the tree with a big high draw. I don't think you can do it. You know, that's how you challenge them.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect, beautiful draw. So now start it down the left side a little lower, but slide it down around the corner. Perfect. Just every one of them. Perfect. See, I told you, I'm a good driver. I said, you know why you're a good driver? Because you never once thought about how the hell you were going to do it, and you just did it. That's
you think it was just he just didn't have the intention, did he? I mean, it sounds like it was like the harder the shot, the better he was because he was so focused. It's almost like driving was too easy.
He had gotten lost, and you know, Mac O'Brady's a genius.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure anybody can understand him, but he can do it. I mean, his swing left-handed looks just the way it looks right-handed, and there's a lot of great stuff that he has people do. But he was trying to put this on a guy that is the biggest field player of all time. Right. He never had one mechanical thought in his life. Mm-hmm. You walk out there, Bush, I fucking kill you. I tell you, I kill you right now with these 5-iron. You can't
I love it. That's fantastic.
I love it. I learned so much.
I mean, watching him at short game shots had to be just like the front row seat of the best.
Pretty much everything I taught Tiger about the short game, I learned from Ballesteros, Olafable, or Norman. Norman had a phenomenal short game too. Yeah. Greg and Seve came up at the same time on the European Tour, and they used to play and practice a lot together. So they would challenge each other on short games. And I would show Tiger and explain to him. Now, you have to put your own adaptation to it, which Tiger did beautifully, and he became very good at it. But Seve was just a genius. And Seve and Phil do it with a lot of early wrist set.
Yeah.
Greg and Jose Maria were more downcocks. Jose Maria especially. He didn't have a lot of wrist set, and the interesting thing though, Seve and Jose Maria played all their bunker shots with a square club face. Never opened the club face.
They just lean the shaft back a little bit like your dad used to?
I tried to do it. I couldn't do it, because I was taught the other way. But it's fascinating watching them. They both could go in there with a 3-iron and hit the prettiest, highest little bunker shots you've ever seen.
Get the handle really low, and
you'd almost have their hands on the ground.
Right. That's awesome. What about Greg? Greg was your first guy, right? Kind of your first big tour player.
Yeah, I would say Elke was good, Davis Love was good. They won, but yeah, Greg was the first superstar that I had. He was a little lost, and. God, what year would that have been? That would have been 91, end of 91, around there, 92, 91, I think. And he was lost. And the Houston Open had gotten washed out or something at the Woodlands, and for some reason they rescheduled it at the end of the year. And so he was back playing there, and he and Elkington being in Australia, he had said to Steve Elkington, I want to go see one of the Harmons, either Butch or Dick Harmon. They both live here. Who would you go see? And Elke said, you can't go wrong with either one of them, but I think Butch is more your personality. You'll get with him because he's not going to bullshit you at all. He's just going to tell you how it is. So I went, remember, I was on a putting green, and he sent his caddy over to get me. So I went and said, hey, Greg, hey, Butch, so let me see you hit some shots. So he was hitting it all over the place, and he had that big reverse C and right foot slide.
Yeah, kind of cross the line a little bit and then dump it underneath and then slide into it.
I read this book that you wrote about your golf swing and stuff, and you're really not doing anything you said you did in this book. So I don't know what this is. Let me take a 2-iron. Let me see you hit just a nice high 2-iron, which you did. And so then he said, well, what do you see? I said, what I see is you got some work to do. I said, I think you've gone. This is Greg Norman I'm talking to.
Yeah.
I think you've probably gone as far as you can go the way you're swinging. I think you can be a lot better, but you're going to have to make some changes because you do it all with your hands now. You got such great hands. You're doing everything with your hands. And, his bugaboo, the reason he lost that 86 Masters to Jack, because what people don't realize, Greg had birdied 4 holes in a row to get
and hit it in the crowd.
Missed the right bunker, and that was his fault.
Yes.
He would slide ahead of everything, and the club was back. And I was explaining that to him, and he kind of liked it. He said, that's the shot that I have. I got to get rid of. And I showed him how he did it, and then he came to me. And the next year, he only won once, one in Canada. That's where he said, I think I got it.
So what did you guys do? Like back up there, what did you work on?
I changed his posture. I widened him out a little so that I could take advantage of the speed he had through the ball because he had so much speed through the ball. I made his swing much shorter, if you remember it. I made it shorter, not because I wanted to swing shorter. He would get about to here, and then his right arm would lift way up.
Yes, yeah.
Really high. And I said, look, I don't care how far away from your body your right elbow is or your bicep here, but this has got to stay pointed down. And
not height.
The more it goes like this, the more it goes across the line. I said, look, when you hit your 3/4 shots with like an 8-iron, I love the way you swing. And he hit a few, and I said, see, I like that.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, but I couldn't hit a driver like that. I said, sure you can, but we'll get there,
Yeah.
And I said, we got to fix this lower body leg work. I mean, this right foot slide you got going back, because that stops your hips from turning. And I want you to utilize the speed you have, but we got to match up the arms and torso together. And then we talked about how he did that. And if you go back and look at the Open he won at Royal St. George's in '93, which the last round of the best round of golf ever played.
Driving clinic.
Faldo had a one-shot lead and shot 67 and didn't win. Greg shot 64.
That was amazing.
In about 25-mile-an-hour win on a course that's not one of my favorite ones in the rotation. It's hard with all the moguls and stuff in the fairways. Oh, he put on an absolute ball striking clinic. And what people don't realize, he lost his drive on the first hole and made double bogey. Very first hole of the tournament. There was a bunch of shit to the right, and he hit it in there, and they never found it. And he was a joy to work with. People always say to me, who was the toughest guy you've ever worked with? And I always say, well, Greg was. And they go, why was he was he not nice? I said, no, but I probably learned so much from him on how to manage my time. Because I said, here's Greg Norman. He has all these other jobs. And I said, if we had 3 hours to practice, that's all he had. He had business meetings, he had this or that, or he had that, family time and stuff. But that 3 hours was going to be 100% of work. And he taught me how to manage my time, because in those days I may have 5, 6, 7. At one time I had 8 tour pros, which was too many. I couldn't handle it. But he taught me how to manage my time and do it. And the thing that I enjoyed the most with him is when his swing changed, his ball flight came down. And once his trajectory came down, his short iron game got so good it was unbelievable.
Yeah,
he just was so under control. I don't think Greg Norman gets near the credit he should get. He's one of the greatest players ever played. He won, 80-something tournaments around the world.
Unbelievable, yeah.
And all people think of are the screw-ups.
Yeah, the chokes.
Well, some of those he caused.
Yeah.
96, longest day I've ever spent on a golf course.
I was going to say that had to be tough for a coach.
It was brutal. It was not only brutal for me as a coach, it was brutal for walking around with his wife, Laura, and his young daughter, Morgan, in those days, and listening to the crowd, how brutal they were.
Yeah.
And I find, Laura, why don't you take her in the clubhouse? Don't let her stay out here and hear this stuff about his dad. Dad's, he's Greg Norman. He's going to be fine.
Do you remember the conversation you had afterwards?
The part that bothered me after was it didn't seem to bother him that much. Now, maybe he was putting that on for Tony Navarro and I, his caddy, because we were waiting for him in the locker room, and if it had been me, I'd have been ripping the fucking locker room apart.
Right.
Tearing them apart. He just said, yeah, it is what it is. I'm like, no, it is what it is, my ass.
Wow.
But, when Tway hole the bunker shot in Inverness, so he was unlucky. Well, he shot 40 on the back nine. He wasn't that unlucky. He did that to himself. In 96, he did that to himself. There's other ones that he didn't. The Larry Mize pitching it in from over by the 12th tee. I mean, I gave you 1,000 balls. You can't pitch one in.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Just stop. But that's you got no control over that.
Wow.
This guy had so much talent. He was fearless to a fault, really. Sometimes there would be an easy way to do it and a hard way to do it, and he picked the hard way. But that's just Greg. That's if you look at Aussies, they're a lot like Texans. They're kind of brash and they're kind of all systems go, and that's what made them so good, and that's why everybody loves them. And you could put Phil in that category.
I was gonna say, Phil's the next one. Like talk about a little bit about Phil.
Another one who you could say has never been a good driver.
Yeah, he didn't listen to you as far as the width thing. I think that would have helped him a lot.
I have film of him in perfect position here hitting good. And he told me, he said, I'm not going to do it.
Because he wanted to swing longer.
10 or 15 yards, and I can't do that. I said, yeah, but you can play from the fairway every time.
Yeah.
No, I can't do that. And, that's fine.
He won U.S. Open.
We had a lot of, Phil and I had a lot of success together. But my biggest joy for him was when he won the Open at Muirfield, because he never thought he could do it. And he put on a clinic on Sunday, too, in a 20-mile-an-hour wind. Probably the hardest of, Carnoustie and Muirfield are the two hardest courses. And Muirfield played so hard that day. God, he played beautifully. And he finally bought into taking the ball out of the, because he's a high ball hitter.
Yes.
Take the ball out of the air, putting it on the ground, using the slopes, using the wind to his advantage and stuff. And it was just a joy. It was funny. We were on the range, and who was leading? Westwood was leading. I think Phil was 3 back, maybe, something like that. Westwood was leading. Someone else was up there. Adam Scott was up there. So we're talking on the range, and this was I'm not trying to talk bad about Lee Westwood, because he just won. He won the Autumn Merit at 47 years old.
Yes.
And I've known Lee forever. And I said, well, Westwood's leading, but he's not going to win. He's never won a major. The conditions are so hard today.
Wasn't proven.
I said, I think if you beat Adam Scott, you win. Well, I'm going to beat the hell out of Adam Scott. I said, well, you got to catch him first. Oh, don't worry about that, but I'm catching him.
This is what you're talking about before the round?
This is Phil on the range. That's how much confidence he had in the way he was swinging the club at that time and how good he was putting and stuff. He goes, doesn't matter. They can't beat me today. But so I like the way you're talking. Let's go out and do it. But he went out and did it. I learned a lot from Phil with short game stuff. Here's the 2 things I learned from him that I'm not sure I do or a lot of people do. But his shots around the green, if he wants to hit it high, he plays it off the front foot. If he wants to hit it low, he plays it off the back foot. Never in the middle. You and I would move the ball around for different shots. No, he's two positions. One forward, one back, two different shots. And he's a genius. He probably has, around the greens, Phil Mickelson probably has more ways to hit the same shot than anybody I've ever seen. Now, a lot of times I think that's not an asset.
Yeah.
Because he likes the sensational shot, the high flopper, and because he likes it. That's his personality, and that's one of the things that makes Phil so good. And he's a genius around the greens. I mean, he does it a very strange way, very early wrist set, a lot of speed, but not a lot of follow through. If you watch him, he just holds that right for him, his right arm straight through there, and just whatever loft he puts on the club. That's what he's delivering, and he never takes it off.
Yeah, skill trumps function with that guy, because, I mean, we can't teach a lot of average players to do it.
You cannot teach a lot of people to do that.
Yeah.
But it was a joy to watch him and pick his brain on how he did it and stuff and why he did. You know, another guy that's not going to get the credit. Yeah, he's in the Hall of Fame. He should be. These guys won 5 majors and 44 tournaments. What you don't realize is he did that in a Tiger Woods era.
Yes. Hardest time to win tournaments.
No one's even close.
Yeah.
To doing what he did in the Tiger Woods era. And so I don't think he gets the credit he should get. Now, he's never been a good driver of the ball. That's just him.
Right.
He has got the Dustin Johnson short memory, though. The last shot never happened.
Has to.
You can, but you can't teach that.
No,
I liken it to a cornerback in the NFL. They get beat as many times as they don't get beat, but they got to strap it up and go the next play. Well, those two guys, Tiger had that ability, but he did it with a different little demeanor. Phil and DJ, that last shot never happened. It's gone. You know, Dustin gets asked all the time, how often do you think of 3-putting the last green at Chambers Bay from 12 feet to lose the U.S. Open? He goes, I never think about it. Why would I think about it? You're not going to let me go do it again, so why the hell am I thinking about it? That would have ruined most players. Something like that. I mean, think about it yourself. We go out and play it. We got a good round going, whether it's a tournament or with your buddies. You got a 90-yard wedge shot, and you bury it underneath the lip of the bunker, and you make double or triple bogey. 3 holes later, you're still thinking about it. I got to get it down this in the world. I couldn't hit a wedge on the green. I'm 5 under. What the blah, blah, blah.
That's right.
Those guys, that never happened. That shot didn't even exist because it's gone because they got no control over it.
Crazy.
Can't teach that.
So what are a couple of things that you learned from working with Tiger? You mentioned some earlier, but like anything.
Tiger to me, he had the way to will himself to do it. Here's something that people don't realize. This kid won 3 USGA juniors, 3 USGA amateurs all in a row, 6 years in a row. Won every one of them. No one's ever done that. What you don't realize is every one of the final matches went to the last hole or beyond. Every single one of them. Every junior, every amateur.
I've had Steve Scott on the podcast, and that was probably the most amazing.
He can't tell you how he was going to win, but he was going to win. And he could look at the putt he holed on the 72nd hole to get in the playoff with Morocco.
Oh yeah, incredible.
Torrey Pines, there's no way this ball should go in.
Bouncing all over the place.
This ball was bouncing all over the place. It was to the right of the hole, and the hole just reached out and grabbed it. Yeah. Well, it never entered his mind he wasn't going to make it.
Yeah, and Rocco knew he was going to make it.
He had one of the strongest minds next to Nicklaus of anyone that I've ever been around.
Yeah.
He could will himself to do stuff. He could just make himself do it. The way I used to get him to do stuff, I'd tell him he couldn't do something, and I'd challenge him to do it. The great story one year at when the tournament champions with La Costa, and he was struggling hitting high fades, and I was trying to get him to hit some high fades and with some iron shots, and he was really struggling doing it. I said, all right. I said, look, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you 5 balls. At the end of the range, down there about 245, 250 was an opening where the golf cart picks up the range balls came in. The door was open. I said, I'm going to give you 5 balls. I got $100 says you can't hit a ball through that gate. So you don't have to pay me. I'm just going to give you $100. First ball right through the freaking gate. He says, give me that $100. I said, yeah, I give it to you. And then he won the tournament. So that $100 was very well spent. But I used to challenge him by telling him he couldn't do something, and then because I knew he'd prove me wrong.
Yeah.
And that was how I'd put a seed in his head to do something and stuff. And in our business with tour players, they're all good. but they're all different. Every one of them has a different personality. And for me, my job is much more than the X's and O's of a golf swing. It's getting in a guy's head, making him believe in what we're doing. And you got to know when to kick a guy in the ass. You got to know when to give him a hug. You got to know when to back off. You got to know when to make him laugh. And every one of my guys is different. So I had to first understand their personalities and what I could say to hit that trigger point that was going to make something happen. Poor Steve Scott. I mean, he was the nicest young man you'll ever
he's a great guy. I work with him now, too. He's still a really good player. Plays in our section.
I made a statement in an outing once about Steve, and someone said to me, well, how did you – Tiger was 5 down at the end of the first 18 holes.
Yeah.
You're good at getting in guys' heads, but how did you get in his head? I said, it was pretty simple. I said, we didn't go to lunch, and his posture had gotten bad. I changed his posture, and the club all of a sudden fell in the slot. And he said, well, did you say anything to him? I said, yeah, we were going the first tee, and I put my arm around him. And I have apologized to Steve Scott for this because he took offense to it, and he actually wrote me a letter, and I wrote him back. And I said, look, because he had his girlfriend caddying for him, who's now his wife, lovely young lady. Mm-hmm. And Steve Scott's a wonderful young man. And I said, look, did you notice this day that every time this guy won a hole and made it, about this, his girlfriend is smiling and kissing him and stuff. I said, would you kick this guy's ass and wipe the smile off that girl's face? That's what I told him on the first hole. So long story, we come to the 35th hole. He knocks it stiff, makes birdie. 36, if you remember, he holds a 50-footer, 40-footer across the green, running across the green. And unbeknownst to me, we're walking down the hill from Pumpkin Ridge, the 18th tee, and he walks by me, and he slapped me on my ass so hard. He goes, she ain't smiling now, is she?
Oh, my gosh.
I actually told that story, and I told it in a Golf Digest, and Steve took offense to it, as he should have.
Yeah.
But I didn't mean it in a personal thing to him. And he wrote me a letter, and I wrote him back. And every time I've seen him, I've actually apologized 100 times to him for it, and he gets it now. He goes, no, I understand. I said, look, I don't blame you for being upset. But that was the trigger I had to use to get in his head to see what I could do to get it. And that, please, I said, it had nothing to do with you or your girlfriend. She's a lovely girl, you know. And he was a good player. His problem was he was one-dimensional. All he could hit was draws. And there was a lot of right-hand pins that day, and he couldn't get out of them.
Right.
And he couldn't get it. He putted so good in the morning round, it didn't matter. But in the afternoon round, he started missing some shots to the right. And what's he doing now? Where is he now?
He's working for like a exclusive club where he's the sort of director of golf. He takes them on trips, but he's a great player. He plays in section events.
Still where?
Here in the Carolinas. He's in Raleigh.
I knew he was in the Mets section in New York.
No, he's in Raleigh. Yeah, we connected, and he actually came down, took a lesson, and because he's doing
Tell him hi for me.
I will.
I told the story, and I apologize.
I will. He'll listen to the podcast because he's a fan, so that's super cool.
He and his wife are two of the nicest people you've ever met. He's got a lot of talent. He can play.
He really does. Well, that was one of the topics that I wanted to ask you about was the coaching superpower, right? I mean, it's just we all know the X's and O's, but you're so known for like motivation and coaching your players, having the right thing to say at the right time. Like, where do you think that comes from?
I think from being around my dad, just listening to him on how he did things. As I said, I was a pretty good athlete when I was a kid, so I always had good coaches, football, basketball coaches that would get in my head and I could listen to. And I think you just got to know what numbers to push.
Yeah.
You got to know, and they vary in everyone.
It's so tough, isn't it? Because it's just, again, it's what we talked about with young coaches is having what I call the EQ, right? The emotional intelligence versus the IQ. And I think that's where I'm trying to really get across on these podcasts. And you're a perfect example of living proof of like how valuable that is to really helping your player. All we're trying to do is help them play better. It doesn't matter how we get it done.
Always be positive. Always be. You can say a negative thing by just tell the guy, well, I don't think you can do this, so we're not even going to try and do that.
Being truthful, right? Like you said.
When you're doing it, be positive. Always be upbeat. For me, I'm a glass half full instead of a glass half empty. Yeah. Teaching. In my life, I'm the other way around. I wish I had that ability in my life. But I think you have to. I always look at the bright side of it. I don't look at the negative side of it. I've always, when a person plays bad, you don't go and say, boy, how'd you play so shitty today? You pick your spot and you go in and say, all right, let's talk about it. So what happened out there today? For example, this shot on this hole, what were you thinking? What was your mindset? What shot were you trying to hit? Why were you trying to do that? And then you get an understanding of who you're dealing with, and
reading that person,
and how you can help them.
Is there ever an example you can think of where you said the wrong thing and it backfired on you?
I'm not sure it ever backfired on me, but there's things.
You say, I wish I wouldn't have said that to this guy going to the first tee.
At certain times, there are things I wish I would have phrased that a little differently.
Right.
I can't give you an instance, but that's happened. I mean, that's human nature. But none of us are perfect, so we all make mistakes. But I think you got to give it 100%. You got to always try and get better at what you do. You got to really want to get better at what you do, and that goes back to the line you asked me a little while ago. That it's the perfect. It's what you learn after you think you know it all. That's probably and that's true in life too.
Absolutely. So I have to ask you this because one of my pro friends asked me. You don't have to answer it, but are you working with a new tour player, high profile player named Jordan?
He came to see me during the tournament at Shadow Creek. He came out on Saturday morning before his round, and we spent about an hour and a half together, 2 hours together, and I think that in Jordan's case, I think he just needed to try something different.
Right.
And he went out and shot 11 or 12 under on the weekend, and he doesn't seem to have, whether he comes back or not. I did it just because I liked the kid, and he asked if he could come get my opinion.
Sure.
And a lot of guys do that, and I do it. And I gave him what I thought he needed to do. And, his club face would get really open at the top, although he had worked on that.
Mm-hmm.
He and Cam had fixed that. It wasn't so much, but he had a lot of backup in his swing, tremendous amount of backup, and not much going forward. So he did everything with his hands. And that's why he had a two-way miss. And you can't play with a two-way miss. If you got a one-way miss and you're having a bad round, you can get around the course because you can play it.
Right.
But if you got a two-way miss, you can't play. And I think that in Jordan's case, I just wanted to give him what I thought would help him get better. I said, look, this is going to take time. If you want to do it, fine. If you ever want to have me ask me again, I'm happy to help you. People say, do you think you could help this guy or that guy? I said, yeah, I'd like to. Why don't you call him? I said, no, I would never do that.
Yeah.
I never solicited anybody that I wanted to talk.
Right.
He called me on the phone, and I said, sure, I'll help you. Like a guy down your neck of the woods, Webb Simpson. I do a lot of work with Webb. A lot of people don't know about.
Yeah, I've heard that a little bit, and I'm good friends with Webb.
And he's a great guy. Like he texted me the other day, hey, Monday before Phoenix, can I come out again like I did last year when I won? I said, sure, you can come out again. Come on out.
So that's a good one. Yeah, I was gonna say, are you gonna change that face, the club face at the top?
Won the Barter Trophy last year.
Oh, he's an amazing player.
That last year.
Oh, he played amazing.
You talk about a nice guy. My God, what a
the best.
Person.
Yeah,
one of the best of all time.
Yeah,
and I have so much fun with him when he's here. And Paul, is caddying because Paul. People don't realize Paul's a golf pro.
Yes,
he actually tried to play the tour, and he knows what he's talking about. And I always tell him because he's always asking questions. I said, okay, you get 2 questions, okay, during the course of the day, right? And Webb just starts chuckling. He knows I'm going to tell him this. So he'll ask us 2 questions. He said, I got one more question. I said, no, your 2's up. So just shut up over there. Okay, Webb, here's what we're going to do.
Yeah, because he tells Weber, he's his coach.
Weber got the club way too much inside.
Yeah.
Way too much inside and hung back too much with his head. And one of the big keys I've done with him once I got him better was to release his head through the ball. And when he started releasing his head, his speed kept up in his arm swing all the way to the finish, and his ball flight changed, and he started hitting the ball more solidly because he was a big hang backer.
Yeah.
Well,
he's the one of those rare cases where, he's probably got the most open club face on tour at the top, right?
It's not as bad as it was because I've really worked on.
I was going to say I didn't know if you tried to change that at all.
Oh God, yes, I hate an open.
I know. That's what I was asking. That's
he's pretty square now. He could actually be a little more shut, but he'd have to feel that and see the shot more. But he's done good work. I probably see Webb 2 or 3 times a year. That's all.
Oh, I gotcha.
I'll see him early in the year. He always comes out. I'll see him usually before Phoenix, and then I'll see him during the Vegas tournament. He'll send me swings all the time on video and stuff, and we'll do it that way. But I really like that man. He is how about the year he had? He won twice. He won the Barton Trophy.
Unbelievable.
Nobody talks about him. Guy's a hell of a player.
I mean, I always say that, because I teach a lot of putting is, we were a Webb Simpson major winner away from getting a arm lock band. Right? Yeah, I mean the arm lock has helped him so much.
Well, they should do away with the locking band, because that's more. The arm lock is more than the hand on the chest for the long putter.
I would think
the
so.
arm lock, sure, is definitely.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that he's doing something wrong, because he's not.
No, he's just.
I mean, that's legal.
Yeah.
You can do it, but see, they need to do away with all those rules like that. Christ, it's hard enough. All right, man, it's getting to be my dinner time now.
I appreciate your time, man. You get to answer.
My wife just texted me, "Okay, honey, dinner's on the table."
I love it, dude. This is great. I mean, I haven't even got to half the stuff because you're just so wonderful.
We can do it again, Jace.
One more question, and it'll take you 2 seconds. Everybody has to answer it. And if you've heard the podcast, you know what's coming. But if you had to put a message or a quote on a billboard to get out to the world, what would your billboard say and why?
Always be yourself. Always believe in yourself. Don't try and be something you're not. And always try and get better at whatever you do, and always become a better person. If you do that, you will have lived a good life.
It's amazing, man. Thank you so much for this. This was
Jason, my pleasure. We'll do it again. I'm like you. I love talking about golf, and it's fun. And you and I have been so lucky. We've been allowed to make a decent living doing this. And your podcast is great. I listen to it all the time. You have great guys on here. You do a great job. You're very good at the questions you ask, and then let them go. And it's fun.
Thank you so much. All right.
Appreciate it. Now I get to go drink my wine.
There you go. All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Good night, pal. Take care.
What's up, everybody? Guru back here again with a couple of things before you go. First, big thank you to Butch for coming on the show. How awesome was that? And I really appreciate him sharing his story and a lot of extra things that I hadn't even heard through some of his interviews and podcasts. So crazy knowledge, great stories, some really ridiculous insights on coaching. Make sure you follow Butch on the gram, man. He's out there getting after it social media wise at Coop4359. It's COUP 4359. Like he needs any more followers. It's got 26,000. Also, thank you again to our sponsors, Straight Down Apparel, Hack Motion Training Aid, Swing U, and enviedhemp.com. And make sure you use the promo code GURU20 for that 20% discount when you get your CBD products. You won't be disappointed. Also, make sure you go to the App Store and download the Golf Guru app. Thank you very much. And give me a follow, man. Let's get these followers up. I need more follows on Instagram. Let's go. And Twitter. So I've got 10,000 on Twitter, but I need a lot more on Instagram. I'm sharing a lot of stuff out there, shooting some videos. So feel free to hit me on the DM at Golf Guru TV. At Golf Guru TV. And I'm also on TikTok, believe it or not. Yeah, the old man is getting after it. So also check my website out at golfgurutv.net, where you can find videos, articles, and more teaching and coaching information. And if you want to be a part of my newsletter, I send out a weekly newsletter on Fridays. Leave your email at the bottom of my website. If you have a question or comment, you can email the show at golfgurushow@gmail.com or hit me up on the DM. Music is by Kevin MacLeod and Zach Mullett. And as I always leave you with the infamous Jim Rohn quote, study, practice, teach, and then pass it on. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you next time.